Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Pressing Issues presented by WDW News Today. For today's episode, it's May 17th, 2020. We're going to talk about Shanghai Disneyland reopening last week. We're also going to talk about CityWalk opening a couple days ago. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with Disney Springs, which is going to open in 3 days. So I'd like to welcome my panel today. 3 new faces this week. First, we got Axel.
Good evening.
And next, we've got Annie.
Hey.
And we've got Rob.
What's up, guys? How are you?
So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. And thank you to the panel for being here tonight. Axel and Annie, I know that the two of you went to CityWalk since they reopened a couple days ago. And so let's start off with that. Let's hear about your impressions of CityWalk, what went on. Give us a little recap of how things went. And let us know your thoughts and what kinds of things you think might be happening at Disney Springs based on what you saw at CityWalk.
I'm going to give the honor to the ladies first.
All right. I was really happy to be back. They do require masks. They do temperature screening. There's a lot of things going on there, just that we're going to have to get used to. I did see, everyone was in good spirits. It was just a positive atmosphere, I think. So what did you think, Axel? What did you think about all that?
I think that the main thing that I'm going to take away to go to Disney Springs is not be there right at opening. Because people, although there's a lot of people still wanting to stay home, which I understand, there's a lot of people excited to go. So I think the first tweet I saw was around 3 p.m. for an opening at 4, which the lines were super long to get onto the parking lot, to wait for the temperature, to go to the security. We drove up around 5:30. There's nobody there. We could drive up easily. Temperature check, we didn't have to wait, walk to security, it was an ease. And I saw the crowds coming down quite a bit around 6:30. There were not a lot of places that were open. So I guess if people had seen it, that might be different with Disney Springs, because we have seen a lot of places that confirmed that they are reopening.
So tell me a little bit about the security process and the temperature checks and how that worked, and whether there were people, because we see on Twitter and in our Facebook comments and everything, we see every day people are like, I'm not going to Disney with a mask, they can cancel my annual pass and this and that. Were there people putting up arguments, or was everybody just had a mask and was happy and that was it?
As far as I could see, there was nobody arguing. I did found it a tad bit weird that they didn't offer to sell masks before the temperature check, but apparently if you didn't have a mask, they were able to sell you one right at that point. So I guess somebody just ran back to that little shop at security to get a mask. And I think everybody knows what's expected. People know what they have to do and what the rules are. And if you can't live by those rules, then you just stay home. I mean, we have this option of temperature checks and masks with, just to be clear, I'm not a fan of the mask. I have a beard, it's even harder. So I wear a sort of neck gaiter that comes up on top of my beard. So I'm not a fan of that. I think it's a fake feeling of safety. But on the other hand, it does makes everybody feel safer and it's another barrier between the people. So if everybody's wearing it, it's better. It's still not what it should be. Same for temperature checks. It does not mean because you have a temperature that you have corona, or you could have corona and not have a fever. But still, it's like the people feel safer with it. And if that's a measure it takes, I prefer that than that we wait to open the parks until we have a vaccine or a medicine. I mean, I'm not going to stay home for another 2 years.
Yep, yep. And so did you see, somebody in the chat asked, did you see anybody get turned away at the temperature check?
Maybe Annie will be able to answer that, because when we got in, it's like it was we and us and 3 other people maybe.
Okay. So Annie, were you there right at opening then?
I was, and I've actually been twice. I went earlier today. I kind of wanted to see if things had changed or what kind of differences had been from Thursday to today, just in these last few days. I didn't see anyone get turned away from the temperature screenings. It was very quick, fast-paced. It wasn't. Let me take that back. When I say fast-paced, I meant it wasn't like a long process, but they definitely were scanning and checking it before, having you move on. But I didn't see anyone have any issues. And it was a lot hotter today than it was on Thursday. Thursday, it was like breezy and nice. Like I was wearing my mask and going, I don't know what anyone's complaining about these masks. And then tonight I went over and I was like, oh, I'm a little hot. But you have to do what you got to do. But I didn't see anyone have any issues with the temperature screens or anything. Also on that note, I also have not seen anyone ask people to put on masks, and I did see quite a few people without masks, and it wasn't like they had food or anything. And I understand sometimes you just want to take it off and take like a breath of air, or just just get that wind. Maybe they were feeling hot or things, but I didn't see that like strictness of like there wasn't any kind of yelling, which I appreciate. I feel like if they do tell you to do something, it's going to be presented nicely and it's not going to be like a snap, like authority kind of thing. But I did see, security and management around and people without masks on, and there wasn't that like immediate going after them, like get that back on your face. So
were those people without masks, were they kind of separated and off by themselves? Like they weren't in a line for a restaurant or something where they would be in closer quarters?
For the most part, I think everyone is keeping distance. The benches are very spread out, so if there's a family on a bench, they're not really close to other people already. I noticed a couple people were on their phones, so they were kind of off to the side talking on their phones and things like that. So it didn't seem too much right close contact with people, but I did notice a lot of people with their nose visible, and it's just covering their mouth, which is not really how it's supposed to work. So I did see a lot of those people, like, you're standing in line and all of a sudden I'm like, I see a nose. I shouldn't see a nose. So.
Yeah. What about, were there people walking around with food and drinks that would have obviously had to have their masks off or down in order to eat or drink?
I bought pretzels at Annie Ann's and I had a drink. I felt like the awkwardness of like, what do I do with my mask? Like, how do I juggle these 3 things? So I sat down and ate. The bars aren't open unless you're like sitting down in a restaurant. So I think that's also like maybe to discourage people from like, nursing a drink for a very long period of time with a mask off. So that may be it. But I didn't notice too many people walking with food. I noticed people sitting and enjoying their food, but not so much walking around and like physically biting pretzels or anything.
Okay. And did you go into any of the restaurants, see how the seating was set up or anything?
I noticed that they had like spaces between them outside at Toothsome, because Toothsome's open now. It wasn't the first night. And they were kind of explaining to people that, the seating, how it's going to have like table spaces between them. I had a friend who ate at one of the restaurants, and he said when he got sat, they handed him like a merchandise bag to put his mask in while he was eating. So.
Well, that's a good idea, because you don't want to set it on the table if it's contaminated with viruses.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people
and-
keep saying, how do I eat with a mask on? And it's like, well, you're not going to eat with a mask on, but it does bring up the question of what do you do with the mask while you're eating?
Right. And what about like sanitizing surfaces? Did you see a lot of that happening? Like after people got up from benches, did somebody come over right away to sanitize?
The Donutron, they did with the Donutron. The Donutron was the cleanest thing in all of CityWalk. So for those who don't know, there's in front of Voodoo Donuts, there is a Donutron where you can just sit on it and take a picture. That would be the first thing that you would think that they would say like, okay, there's a big cross on it, don't go sit on it. They had an employee standing next to it with Lysol wipes where you could just go take your picture and then somebody would wipe it down as soon as you were gone. I didn't see that happen to the other tables because when so when you have Voodoo Donuts, you can go up the stairs to like the second floor of City Walk, and that's where I saw Annie. And at one of those tables, we went back afterwards, and you could clearly see that nobody had like cleaned them. So they weren't clean, and especially they weren't sanitized. So I think that might be a bigger issue. I saw more management at City Walk than I saw custodials. That's for sure.
I agree with what Axel said about the tables as well. I noticed that when we ran into each other at City Walk, and we were at one table, and there was, two girls at a table across from us. They got up and left, and throughout the time that we were sitting there, two more people came and sat at the same table, and we hadn't seen anyone come by and clean them. And all the tables that are upstairs, if you're familiar with City Walk, there's like a lower and then there's kind of like the upper level, and they didn't have like the tables roped off even though the restaurants up there weren't open. So it was kind of like there's so many tables that people are going to just choose random ones that I think they really need to kind of like close off sections of seating just so that they have like a smaller area of tables to address after people are finished.
Annie, did you see any difference between tonight and Thursday with the number of managers, number of custodial people, anything like that?
Same number. Steady management was out. Everyone was, I think they're also watching not only, guests, but their team members and how everything is going. But everyone, management out there, welcome back. They're greeting everyone, very visible, which is a nice thing to see that they're out there. They're making sure that tables are things are getting wiped down. There was not as many people out tonight, which I don't know if it's just, it was a lot of bloggers and the novelty of the first night was a little busier, but tonight didn't feel as crowded, which was nice. But a still steady number of, management out there, a lot of people cleaning as well.
So there's not a lot open at the moment at City Walk. So can you just run through at least what you remember, things like that were open and things that were closed? Obviously, we know Voodoo Donuts was open. We know Twosome is open. Is Twosome open only for outdoor seating, or is there indoor seating too?
I believe that they're just doing like the milkshakes and stuff. I don't think they're doing the actual food yet.
Okay.
And I think you can, yeah. So, because we saw a lot of people walking. Well, I guess going back to your question, when I was in front of Twosome, I did see a lot of people with the milkshakes in their hands. So I guess people are getting them to go rather than sitting down because there's a limited seating. But other than that, I saw more things were open today. Cinnabon was open. Cold Stone was open. Bubba Gump was open originally. That's still open. Trying to think of what else new. Auntie Anne's Pretzels. Oh yeah, they were busy.
And then Margaritaville. The big one that was missing for me, because they have like a lot of outside seating, was Cowfish. Not only because it's my favorite place there, but they have a lot of like outside seating, so they do up on the second level. Yes. So they were definitely they will be able to sit people. But when we've been seeing progress throughout, like not, I mean, I don't mean Disney or Universal, but everywhere we go, when we go to City Center Winter Garden, there's a brewery. Crooked Can, a week before, they were putting back the tables, measuring the 6 feet between every table. That wasn't the case for Cowfish. You could definitely see that the tables were just put and left there like they were on March 15th when everybody left. So they did not do any work to prepare an opening. Toothsome started with the shop, apparently now milkshakes. So I hope this is one of the better places that they're going to open soon. I think in City Walk just wanted to be the first one. They went like Disney Springs said, we're going to open May 20th. There was a whole time we didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, there's Universal saying like, next week we're open. So they took a lot of people by surprise. And I think that that's also true for their third parties. And they were pretty surprised and didn't know what to do and how to handle or manage this situation, because it's not something that you do like right away. So to get there in speed, as Annie's saying, like a lot of things opening day by day. And I think just because they wanted to be the first ones made that they opened the first day with 6 or 7 locations that were open, including the Universal store. That was, so I have to admit, I do like to see that Disney Springs is opening with only third parties. It's going to take another week before the Disney-owned shops or restaurants open. I was glad that the studio store was open. I mean, it's not the biggest store, but still, it allows you to get in, and it allows Universal to get some money back in.
Did you go in this store?
Yeah. They were counting like there's a manager at the entrance and the exit, so they do count. And when there's somebody coming out, you're allowed to get in. I mean, every store, and I think that's true for a lot of stores. A store is not meant to find your way easily, and so you could go back out as soon as you can. A store is meant to be like finding your way, so you would find other things along your way and buy that. I mean, look at stores like Home Goods. It's the worst right now to go in, and that's the same thing for this store. Everything is everywhere. It's narrow aisles just because you would get lost in it and buy more stuff. And right now, this is not the best thing to have, but still, it was a pleasant experience. Of course, even if you let 10 people in that store, and the 10 people will be in the Harry Potter corner. I mean, you could go to the SpongeBob merchandise or the Simpsons. Nobody would be there. Everybody was looking at the Harry Potter stuff, like, what do you want? They did sell face masks that were non-themed, but reasonably priced. They were $6 or 3 for 15. And then you had $3 hand sanitizer, which isn't too bad. It's not the $10 sanitizers that we're used to in Disney.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts, Annie? Did you go in the store?
I did when there was no wait. But when, because I got there early, it did feel like Axel said, like you kind of aren't meant to, come in and out. It's kind of like a navigate and run into more merchandise to buy kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it's not a grocery store, right? So it's like they want you to spend your time in there browsing and finding something to buy. So, yeah, you would kind of expect that.
Can I ask a question about about the so one of the things you're talking about with Disney Springs is being able to put directional signs up, and you may have talked about this already, but like, are there a lot of directional signs about, you know, only like one way this way, one way that way, places closed off, like up and down the aisles in the stores? Did it like they do in Target and grocery stores? Did you see a lot of that when you were there?
They
There are a
had
lot
a
of
few
floor
markings on the floor, yeah.
Because I
There
mean,
was a lot of markings, but no directions. Like, it wasn't. I didn't. There is like a in and outside of the stores, and like when you go into Voodoo Donuts, they also have you direct come out an opposite side, so that you know it is like directional, but there weren't like arrows for it. The most directional or kind of signage there was the 6 feet or 2 meter kind of bubbles on the ground, like the big kind of circles that you stand on. So, and I noticed that those were added now by the park. So they weren't there on Thursday, and tonight they were. So,
right. Hey, and another thing you guys talked about on news tonight was the parking. Like, was that a nightmare the first night, and was it any better tonight?
it was neither. It was easy both nights. I was one of the first people the first night. It seemed like they were, trying to put cones down. But tonight, I mean, just they already had cones marked off, so there's a space in between each car, so that you're not directly parked next to each other. It seemed very organized. They have people, parking attendants, that just tell you right where to go. So it was real smooth. Went right in. Took me a couple minutes. Easy.
That's kind of extreme. The cars themselves have to practice social distancing just like the people.
No, there's
well,
a reason
how long
for that.
people take.
I get it. I'm joking.
We came in a bit later, so we saw what they did with the cones. So you drive in, when you're the first one, you're gonna have an empty spot next to you, so you can park. Once a row is full, they're gonna start going back to the beginning of the row and take the cone away. So you're gonna fill up the empty places, but it will avoid that people getting out of their cars are like close to each other because they're parked next to each other. So the row was, at least on the first night, it was full, but you would never interact with those people that are parked next to you because they would fill up the row. And once that's done, those people are long gone, and then you just fill up the empty spaces. I thought it was like a good thing to do because you wouldn't think about it. And the first thing, and the first thing that came to mind for me was like, oh, look, there's social distance for cars. But then they took away the cones and like, okay, you can park here. And I'm thinking like, it's true. Last time, if you can remember, when you parked at a park, they fill up the spaces. And the first thing that you do is look next to you and say like, is he going to open his door as well? And there's always this awkward situation, like who's going to get out of the car first? And you're getting pretty close to the other guests. And that's avoided by this system. So I thought that was, for the short time that they announced that they were going to open, I think they did a pretty good job. What I really liked, and that's totally off topic from the parking lot, was although there was only the Toothsome shop that was open on the other side, they opened the whole walk. So I was able to go right up to the gate.
Hard Rock was not open?
Islands of Adventures. Hard Rock was not open that first night.
Okay. But you could walk all the way around the lake.
You could walk around, and you could go up to the gate of Islands of Adventure and like take a picture of the park. Like I remember when we stayed at the boardwalk the 3 days after the parks closed in Disney, and we were still able to take a walk. So we walked over to Hollywood Studios, and they like turned people around as soon as you came to the last bus station on that walkway. And I was taking a picture of like far away of Hollywood Studios. And the security guard was saying like, oh, you're not allowed to take pictures. That's backstage. And I was like, dude, like, it's a park. Like, millions of people take pictures of this entrance. This won't change anything. That was not the case at Universal. Nobody was there to say like, oh, no, you can't come close to the gate. You can't come near. just walk along. We're going to close everything off. They did for Universal Studios Park, but they're still having some construction work done, so which is normal. But I did appreciate that at least some of the bigger fans really enjoyed getting close to that gate and taking a picture and being that close to the park in 2 months' time.
Sure, it makes it. I mean, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're getting back to normal. And I think a lot of times Disney security just goes off the deep end a bit with telling people they can't take pictures. I mean, that's kind of absurd. That 2 weeks, well, for you it was like 3 days ago you could go in there and now you can't even take a picture of it. That's a bit ridiculous. And I think Disney security is a bit ridiculous with that.
Oh, they definitely are. I mean, it's not that I'm like the outspoken Universal fan, but especially with everything happening now and with the people commenting what's happening, I think that the experience in the time that we live in, whether it's a normal or not normal or new normal, the experience you have at Universal, coming in, going to security, and just putting your bag on this little tray, which they clean afterwards, is way better than some security guy sticking the little stick in it, and then you have to open every zipper. So that's a win for Universal, but that's been a win.
No, I've been saying that for
forever.
years now, that the Universal security with the X-ray machines is so much better than Disney, and Disney has not gotten any better, and in many cases has gotten worse. So yeah, I think Universal is doing a better job.
Disneyland Paris has the same system as Universal. Like it's in an airport. You put everything on that tray, you walk through the detector, that's it. And I was really disappointed knowing that they do all this construction work around the parks to, I don't know if it's just for capacity, but all the security points have been updated. I don't get it. You know you're going to do these works, you know you're going to do construction. Why aren't you putting these machines there? It's not the cheapest machines, but dear Lord, it's
They're
Disney.
not that
You can
expensive.
afford the machines. So yeah, I'm disappointed that we won't have those. Just ones at the parks open, because I don't think that's going to change anything for Disney Springs. You didn't have to go to security before. Now it will just be the temperature check and then the face mask check, and that will be it. I don't know how they're going to react when people are walking around and taking off the mask, but we'll see in three days.
Yeah. Well, if history's any indication, they'll probably yell at people more for taking pictures than they will for not wearing a mask. So we'll have to see. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, and I'm glad you mentioned this, Axel, was the donut throne, because I think that's kind of in my mind that's kind of like one of the more the photo spots. People want to take pictures there, and if they would have just had that roped off and not let you sit there, I think it would have disappointed a lot of people. But the fact that they had it open and they had someone there cleaning it in between each person and let you do something that was fun and make a memory of yourself at the Voodoo Donut stand, it's more of a semblance of normal. They're trying to make an effort to get back to normal, and I think that's great. I think it'll be interesting to see what Disney Springs does. They don't have photo ops like that quite to that extent, but it'll.
But also the entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, when you walked into CityWalk, having the band play, even though that it's on an upper level, but still you walk in, you have a live band playing, you have entertainment when you're walking through CityWalk. I was amazed to see that, the guys on stilts, wow.
I think they're trying to make people feel like it's what they remember. I think that's what they're trying to do, and I think it's great. I think it's absolutely the way to go.
When I was there tonight, I noticed that they had like a live musician there, and he was singing, so he obviously didn't have a mask on, but then they had music playing later, and people were dancing, but they were, doing the 6 feet apart, but there were also, the markers on the ground in front of this area, and people were dancing, and it was just kind of cool to see that people were like living a normal life, even with the changes that we have to make. And it was just like, yeah, people were having fun,
Having fun, yes.
That's the part I can't wait for Disney Springs to see Mr. Maserati in his bedazzled face mask. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting to see Eddie Maserati with a teamed face mask. That's going to be, if I see him the first night, my night will be complete. So like, definitely.
Yes.
Did you guys see people play miniature golf too while you were there?
Yes. It's when you walk into City Walk, on your right side, you can see, you can look down and you can see people playing. I do have to admit, the two families that we saw playing were not wearing a mask. I don't know how the requirements change once you play golf, because like at that point you're playing with people that are in your bubble. So I don't know if it's necessary to wear a mask, but you're still going to cross other people. At least the two families that we saw, and it was like 2 and 3, were not wearing their mask.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but they were playing, even though there's only one part.
Yeah, you're outdoors, and there's kind of a one direction walkway where you're not going to really crisscross paths with a lot of people. So I guess that kind of makes sense, that it's not really necessary to wear a mask. I think so. Yeah, no, I think that's good that miniature golf was open. That's definitely a case where Universal again has the one up on Disney, because although the golf courses at Disney were open, like foot golf was open through the whole pandemic, the miniature golf courses were not open. So there again, Universal has more fun things for people to do that Disney's not going to have when they open Disney Springs. So it'll be interesting to see again how that works.
I think
any other thoughts on City Walk before we go ahead?
Something that Annie said, like one on Sunday, was it Sunday? When did the thing open? I don't even remember. Thursday. I've lost track of time, being home the whole time. Like, I don't know which day, where it's this day and that day. But when it opened and we walked to Islands of Adventure, there were no markings on the floor. And that's when I said to my wife, like, I'm sad, like, if I had seen that they already had some markings on the floor here, it would be this piece of hope. But as Annie said, they're there. And I think Universal is, or just going to do like it's on their site and they're going to open June 1st, at least Islands of Adventure, or they're going to take us by surprise and everybody's going to be like, yeah, we can go to Disney Springs, and Universal is going to say like, hey, but we have a park that's open, so come and enjoy.
It does sound like Universal's making preparations to open the parks sooner rather than later, and try to one-up Disney again with the park opening. So that'll be interesting. And
I mean, they still pay their team members. So.
Yeah, right. They're still paying their team members, so they could open at any time and just call them back. It wouldn't have to be any sort of rehiring.
You don't have to fly them in from Europe,
or whatever it is. Yeah. And so, yeah, and I have a trip booked June 16th. I have a trip booked. I'm coming down. And so it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping the Disney parks are open by June 16th, but, I'm thinking if Universal's open and the Disney parks aren't, I probably will still come, and I'll just go to Universal. I mean, I have a Disney annual pass, but if I can't use it, I can't use it. So it'll be an opportunity to go to Universal, or maybe even SeaWorld if they're open. Who knows? So I think we'll know more is in a week or two. But yeah, I have reservations at Polynesian, I believe, on the 16th. So if those things, it's too early for them to cancel the mid-June reservations yet. But I think also as we get closer to things opening, they're not going to be canceling these reservations quite so far in advance as they have. So we'll see what happens. Annie, any other words on CityWalk before we change categories and start talking about another park opening halfway around the world?
I just think they did a great job. Security was great, management was great, team members were great. So let's see what Disney can do.
I guess one question on my mind is, and I mean, I've been to Disney Springs a number of times, but not as many as you guys, obviously. What do you think Disney Springs can do, being that their parking garages are set up very differently than Universal? And so it's kind of like a free-for-all, whereas in a normal situation, Universal parking garages have cast members directing you to a spot all the time, and Disney Springs does not. Do you think they're going to put cast members in there and direct people where to park, or do you think it's just going to be a kind of free-for-all open thing?
With only 2 parking garages open, so if I've seen it right, they're going to open with lime and orange, so there's only 2 parking garages. I'm pretty sure they're going to have people there to indicate where you have to park. Because with only 2 garages open, it's that, or you have to say like, okay, we're gonna limit the parking, and we're gonna do like the cones where there's only 1 car every 2 or even 3 places. So I think for the reopening, I would be surprised not to see somebody indicating the way you have to park.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, my first instinct is, yeah, it's obvious that they would do that. But then I start thinking, it's real easy to just put cones down and turn the lights on the top red to the ones they don't want you to park in, and free for all, guys, the green ones you can park in and find your own spot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and honestly, Universal could have done that too. If they had 20,000 cones, they could certainly put a cone in every other spot and just leave it there, right? Like, it's not like Universal was crowded and they had to fill every spot. I mean, it was a genius idea to put the cones and then go around and fill the row the second time through. But realistically, they didn't need to do that. They could have just parked every other spot in the entire garage and left the cones there. So Disney could do something like that too. But what's the likelihood that you'll get these entitled people thinking they could just get out and move the cone and park up close? I worry about that happening.
Oh, that will happen.
The bigger difference with Disney Springs than what we saw, because not all the parking levels were open at CityWalk. So
right.
That's why they filled everything up, because you were at the level where you have a moving walkway and then the walkway.
Yeah, you're on the 3rd level.
Your temperature check. Yeah.
So you don't have to take the elevators, which is key.
Elevator, even the escalators. You have to change levels with Disney Springs. They will not have enough parking spaces at this one level. So I'm
even if they do, you're still
do.
going to have to take an escalator and elevator to get down to Disney Springs. So even if you're on level 2 in the garage, there's still going to be a horde of people on the escalator.
So I'm interested to see how they're going to do that. So they're going to say like, okay, wait, if it's going to be like, Typhoon Lagoon, like go sit in your tube, wait. Okay, you can go. If they're going to do the same thing, maybe they bring back the guys from Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, red short, and like, okay, you can go down the escalator. Next, stay here. Okay, you can go. I mean, who knows? It can be entertaining.
Yeah, it could be. It probably will be. All right, so let's change hemispheres here and talk a bit about Shanghai Disneyland, which, if you watched our show last week live, Shanghai reopened in the middle of our show, and there was a live stream going on by some media outlets in China, and so we were watching as it happened how this thing unfolded. And the social distancing was in place, the mask wearing was in place, but I want to talk to especially you three, since you weren't on last week. Did you watch the stream last week, and what did you think of that, and what did you think, because we talked at length about what we thought it was going to happen at Disney, but what do you guys think? Anybody?
I can go.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Only
I'll jump in.
Oh, there you go.
You know what? I mean, I think that we're all looking at this as a template for what's going to happen in the American parks, or in our neighborhoods. So, I'm encouraged by it, but I do think that the entire level of the government scan codes and the questions that they're asking is something that I don't feel like it's going to happen here. But at the same time,
well, we don't have health QR codes, that's for sure.
Right. But they could still ask the personal questions and, get you to fill out a survey and that kind of stuff before you go. But, I just still think about like the temperature scans in Florida are going to be different temperatures with the heat there than they are in Shanghai. So, I mean, I assume that they've got some pretty good equipment and they're going to be able to take an accurate temperature and not turn away people who are like a point difference. But I think it's a positive thing. I think all during this pandemic we've been looking for positive things, and finally I feel like so far this one looks like it is a step in the right direction. And I mean, I'm excited that hopefully on Wednesday, when Mike Pence comes and talks to everybody and they sign off on when these things are going to open, that they're going to open up or set a schedule to open up the parks. I do think it's interesting what Annie had talked about the stickers on the ground already over at Universal, that, when based on how long it was, like 2 to 3 weeks beforehand that Shanghai put those up, Universal may be making a play, like you talked about, to open up a little bit earlier than Disney. So, I mean, that I think so far it looks good, but it's also, you can tell that it's it's a little different. I love that they had the characters up high so that you could at least see some bit of like normal with the face characters without masks on. And when they showed like what it was going to be like and getting ready for Shanghai, it wasn't as scary as I thought, or not scary, but kind of like sterile. No, sterile is not the good word either. All the people in the masks, I thought was going to be a problem going back to Disney. It's not going to keep me from going back to Disney, and I feel like I'm safer, like Axel talked about. Like, it's this false sense of, oh, good, they're wearing a mask, we're all fine. They showed that video of everybody getting ready and then making the food and making the beds, and they're all wearing their masks. And I thought it's not as off-putting as I thought it would be. So I'm glad they're doing that. I'm anxious for it to happen here now. I mean, it looks like the world did not end when they opened that park, so I'm ready for them to open ours.
Rob, there's a question in the chat for you. Are those DVDs behind you in alphabetical order?
That is a pressing issue. I'm glad you raised that question. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Excellent. Good to hear.
I mean, yeah. So, like, you can see in the top corner, there's like some green and black. That's right there. That's Alien 1 through 4. So, if that helps.
It's that sort of proves that at least the A's are in alphabetical order.
Yep.
Welcome to Pressing Issues, Rob.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate. Hey, while I'm like still here, I have a question back on the CityWalk thing, and I wonder how that relates back to like Shanghai. There is that picture of the woman standing in Shanghai by the Walt statue, and she's got her mask on. So she's having her picture taken with her mask on. When they did the pictures at the Voodoo Donuts in the big throne, did people wear their masks, or did they take their mask off for the picture and then put it back on?
They had their mask on.
Oh, they did. Okay.
I mean, that's
so again.
Yeah,
that's gonna be different.
But it's a selfie. it's more of a
I
selfie
did see
thing.
people taking them off.
It really depends on people, because we were in front of Universal Studios Park, so like the main gate, and I was like, oh, let's take a picture. And just out of like, I don't know, a habit, I would go to my phone, and people that were around me like, oh, do you want? And my wife is like, what? You're not going to give them your phone because you don't think about it. Like, okay, can you take a picture? I was like, no, that's not done anymore.
Right.
So
absolutely.
It changes. I do think that it's different with our parks and with the photo passes.
Yes, because
I really never thought about.
Definitely...
It's gonna be different for me. The different part is all the food. You know, they even every Disney park, popcorn, ice cream, everything on the go. You can't eat that through your mask. So I don't know if they have dedicated zones to eat or a dedicated. I mean, I'm okay if they have a photo opportunity that's marked off. Like if you go on Main Street and there's this big bubble and it's like, go stand there and you can take off your mask for your picture, then I'm fine with it. I mean, if people still keep their distance, why not?
Because you're going to stay 6 feet away from that bubble.
But then at a point, it's then, okay, I need to put my mask back on and I need to get closer. I think we're going to be right about maybe a bit less than 6 feet for them to scan your Magic Band. So I'm not sure how that will work. But still, I'm not sure if when the parks reopen, that we are going to have like that many PhotoPass photographers or have any, or have popcorn.
Well, we're also not going to have
bars.
Characters to take a picture with.
That's like the characters, even before Shanghai opened. I was surprised they brought back character dining in China. Like,
yeah, they brought that back a long time ago.
Yeah, and then you keep your distance from that character and you take your picture, but it has this sense of, as you said, sense of normal, like being there, eating something. And this is not a time, and I think this is especially hard for Disneyland Paris, because I know the park where I was raised has a lot of buffets. This is not the time to have a buffet. And lucky for the US, we have this thing. But having character dining, if it was possible here in the same circumstances, then you do it there, I would do it right away.
Yeah.
You know, though, going back to
what
the
park
photo
were you
thing real
raised in, Axel?
Well, I'm not that old, but it's a Disneyland park. It's not Walt Disney Studios. That's not a park. I don't call that a park. That's.
But you were raised in Disneyland Paris.
I was there a lot until the age of 7. I was there a lot.
Really? Okay. Cool. Very cool.
So,
ahead,
real
Rob.
quick,
Sorry,
back to
didn't
the
mean to cut you
photo thing, which will bring you back into your topic, Jason. So sorry to take you off topic on that, though. Back into the photo thing, though. In the instructional video that they show for Shanghai about what to expect when you get to the parks, they show people taking a selfie with the three of them, and they're all wearing masks. So I wonder, for me, because I think that this is going to be obviously an unprecedented time, which is a thing that we hear way too much. Unprecedented time to go back to these parks. I kind of think I probably would keep my mask on when I'm taking pictures, just because it would say, hey, this is part of what was happening at that time. So
it's a reflection of reality.
Exactly. So, I mean, a picture is basically a frozen moment in time, and that's what was happening at this time. And let's hope that this isn't the same way in 5-10 years. But I would probably keep it on when I was, doing selfies, to say, hey, look, not only am I being responsible and keeping my mask on and social distancing and all that, but this is life in 2020 or 2021 or whenever I get to go back to the parks. So that's why I was just curious about what was going on at Voodoo Donuts, because again, thinking of Shanghai opening and the picture of the woman who is probably, because of how much we've used that picture, the most famous woman that nobody will ever know because she's got a mask on. I just think it's just an interesting time, an interesting telling of the time.
So yeah, I think that's very true. And I just came up with this analogy, and maybe it's ridiculous, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like if you go to Disney and insist on taking off your mask to take a picture, because you don't want to be, you don't want the photo, the snapshot in time to show reality. That's like going to Epcot and saying you want to take a picture in front of Club Cool, and so you take a picture there and then you Photoshop Club Cool in later, right? Like that's not reality. And so, if you're going to take a picture in Epcot, it's probably going to have a construction wall in it, and that's just the reality. So having a mask on is just reality. And I mean, it's not like a portrait. It's not like your passport photo. I mean, if you're going to put it as your Twitter cover photo, that's one thing. But if you're just taking like some fun shots of yourself in the parks, having a mask on is just reality. That's just what it is.
But isn't that the reason that we go to Disney, to escape the reality? Like, think Main Street. Main Street is meant to bring us back to those days where Walt Disney was a kid.
Yeah, but Walt Disney wasn't a kid where people wearing masks.
So that's why you take it off, to take a picture.
Well, if you wanted to be escaped from reality, then everyone on Main Street should have their mask off. Because there was no reality where Walt's Main Street in Marceline had people walking around with masks. So there's only so much escapism that you can expect.
I think that the question is different for us, or for me, living close to the parks. If I go and I have to wear a mask the coming, let's say, 6 months or even a year, I can take those pictures with a mask. I don't mind.
Because you'll be able to go back next year and take them without the mask.
Yes. But not a lot of people. There are people that save to do this trip with their kids, and then it's like looking back at the memories, and it's like, oh yeah, look, you weren't smiling. Yes, I was. No, you have a mask. Like, yeah, but still I was smiling. So that's different for the people. I get it for the people that come once every 10 years, that you want a beautiful picture to take home.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. That's fine. And like you said, if you're standing in the circle on Main Street with the castle in the background and you a PhotoPass photographer taking your family's photo, that's fine to take the mask off. I don't have any problem with that. But I think in some instances, having the mask on gives you that snapshot of in time, and you'll remember it. But also, I think... and I said this last week, I feel bad for the people that have saved up for 10 years and are coming to Disney and have a trip booked in like August or September, and they're not going to get any of the experience that, because they're not going to have fireworks, they're not going to have parades, you're not going to have character meet and greets. Honestly, I think those people shouldn't come. I think they're wasting their money. And we talked about this 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago? When we talked about the value proposition of a trip to Disney when they reopen, with so many things, so many offerings not available. And so, between the lack of fireworks, the lack of character interactions, having to wear a mask, Epcot might not even be open. The other three parks are maybe going to open, and Epcot will stay closed for a little while. I mean, those people that are spending a boatload of money and only come once every 10 years, they should really just put it off a year. It's going to be a much better experience for them.
But you know what you get into. Like, those people, they know what to expect. So I'm sure that if they
they might not,
Disney
though.
will say, like, I don't know.
They're going to come.
If you want to, you have to
They're going to
prepare.
come and they're going to be like, oh my God, Epcot's not open. And they're going to complain. Like they don't know. People that come every 10 years, they don't know.
But I think, don't you think that they will get like an email from Disney? Because I know when we, and it's different for me because like on DVC website, you have all the information you need. But even when I call, it's like, oh, we just want to let you know that the pool is going to be closed from something like for now. I know that Vero Beach has pool construction coming. And I know that, and then they want to set expectations because they don't want us to complain. So I think once it reopens, that there will be a mail sent to everybody with a reservation, setting expectations just to like protect themselves against anything that could happen, or even spending more money to reimburse people or let them come twice. So I think everybody will know before getting here what they get into, and I'm sure Disney will let them know. They're not going to take the risk letting people come down for that.
I totally agree with everything you said, except the last sentence where you said everybody will know. I'm going to correct that to say everybody should know, but they're not going to know. For whatever reason, they're not going to read that mail. They're not going to read their email. They're not going to believe that Epcot's closed. Probably what it's going to be is the mail's going to say Epcot will be closed during your trip, and they're just not going to believe it. They're going to be like, that's ridiculous. I'm sure Epcot's open, and they're going to come, and Epcot's going to be closed, and they're going to be upset and complaining. I don't think it's everybody, but I think there's a fair amount of people that are going to do that, just based on my experience with the average guest at Walt Disney World. So,
yes.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, because there are a lot of people, and we've talked about this before, that there are a lot of people that don't even know that Universal and Hollywood Studios are not both Disney. Because they don't care. This is not their life like it is ours. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to us that yes, we are going to see what's available at CityWalk before we go there, or what the rules are, or looking at Disney Springs and what things that they're asking us to do when we go, and the know before you go. But there will still be a ton of people who don't. They'll just hear the word open and they'll go, and they don't know again the difference between they call Magic Kingdom, that's Disney. And then there's that Epcot park, and then there's the studios, but they really mean Harry Potter World. I mean, there's a lot of things like that, and it just doesn't matter to them, and they don't know. So I agree with you. They're not going to read that email. You could send them 30, 40 emails. They probably just go, oh, that's just another Disney email. I'll worry about it when I get down there. And I think that that's going to be super frustrating. And I wonder about that when it comes to masks and things like that, in North Carolina, where I live, it is not required for you to have a mask to go into a store. So you can go into a store and 50% of the people are wearing them, 50% aren't. And then when you go into the parks, and I think actually you were talking about this earlier, that when you go to CityWalk, that they were, taking care of people who didn't have the mask. But I think they probably are going to have a bigger problem with that at Disney, people showing up to the front gate and they don't have a mask, and they're going to have to figure out, do we give them a paper mask, or do we sell them a mask here on the spot, or how do we accommodate that and not send them away mad, but still let them into the park? But we told them they have to bring their own mask. But even though we told them, they still didn't listen because they didn't read that email, or they didn't do whatever. So I agree with you 100%. They should know. But I also agree, Jason, that, I mean, we've all seen it so many times that people they just don't really care. They just feel like this is an all-inclusive. I've taken care of it. I bought everything online. I'm just going to show up and it's all going to be great.
I'm wondering like how many people are going to not. I don't think it's going to be the fact for Disney Springs, but for the parks, I don't know. I think people are going to be way worse of handling the situation of wearing a mask, and I think they're going to have a lot of discussions on, should I wear a mask? Shouldn't I wear a mask? And I don't know. I think people, especially here, everybody has a different perspective. Like, I'm not a fan of the mask, but still, I'm going to wear it. Is it taking away my freedom? No, it isn't. It's to keep the people safe that don't have a choice of being there. And those are the cast members. Everybody who walks in as a guest has a choice of staying home or going to a Disney park. If I don't want to wear a mask and it's against my religion, my freedom, my whatever it will be, I have a choice and I can stay home. The cast members who need to be there, they don't have a choice. They will be wearing a mask, and for us as guests, wearing a mask will just be like, I do it for the cast members. When I wear a mask going in to Target, I'm not doing it for myself. I mean, I know I'm not sick, so I shouldn't wear a mask. But the people who work there, they don't know, and I don't want them to feel unsafe. That's why I will wear a mask. It's doing something for the people that don't have a choice of going. And I do think it really depends on how Disney will handle it. I know of companies, stores, that they expect you to wear a mask. If you don't have one, they will provide you one. So I think it will be a lot of work for security, definitely. But I think if it comes to a point where people really don't have a mask, they will be provided one. And I think even up until the point that if you have a Disney hotel reservation, that they might even be in your room. I don't work for Disney,
or you
that's
get
not
them at
sure.
the front
But
desk or whatever, yeah.
yeah, or you can go ask for them and you will see it everywhere. And then you will still have the option to get your mask, and they will be able to help you. I mean, at least at the deluxe resorts. Like the All Stars, you could have an old piece of carpet and that's it.
You'll get
like the Great Magic
diamond
Band.
encrusted masks at the Grand Floridian, and you'll get pieces of old carpet at the All Stars.
Yes.
Anything works.
I mean,
yeah, no,
it's
that's. I think you're exactly right, Axel. And I was actually going to go off on a diatribe like that at some point in the show tonight, so I might as well just do it now to follow up with you. That you're exactly right. When you go to a Disney park and they ask you to wear a mask, they're not asking you to wear a mask for your protection. They're asking you to wear a mask for the protection of the cast members. And 90% of the people on Twitter seem to not understand that. The other thing is that Disney is private property. They don't have to let you on. They don't have to let you into Disney Springs if they don't want to. And so they're setting up rules that say you have to wear a mask and you have to have your temperature taken. And if you don't wear a mask or your temperature is over a specific threshold, they're not letting you in. And you can argue all you want. You can argue till you're blue in the face that this is against your freedom, it's against the Constitution, it's against your religious liberties. It doesn't matter. It's private property. They don't have to let you in. And so all of the people that are saying, I'm not going to wear a mask, well, some of the people are saying, I'm not going to wear a mask, that's ridiculous, I'm going to cancel my annual pass. That's fine. That's absolutely within your right. And if you are not going to come to Disney World and wear a mask, then your best bet is probably to cancel your annual pass. If you're the person that's going to come to Disney and refuse to wear a mask, then you're the type of person that's the problem. You're going to get thrown in jail. I hope you get kicked out of Disney because you're not wearing the mask for your own safety. You're wearing the mask for the protection of the cast members and everyone else around you. So there you go.
Mic drop. You should pick your mic up and just drop it. There's a mic drop. There you go, Jason.
It's on a springy thing. It doesn't drop.
It looks like it's dropping.
There you go. Here, look, I'll make it happen. So that's that. The other thing, and I've said this before, and since I'm on a roll now, I'm just going to go with it. And then after I'm done, we're going to take a commercial break. The whole social distancing thing. and the masks, right? Like, so the 6 feet social distancing is a random number that someone pulled out of their ass. It's not really based in any scientific fact. Like, there were some studies that said respiratory droplets don't travel more than 6 feet. That's been subsequently somewhat debunked. I mean, obviously, the further away you are from somebody who sneezes, the less likely you're going to get hit with their respiratory droplets. And so the 6 foot of social distancing is kind of an arbitrary number. And if the person who's sneezing is wearing a mask, the 6 feet doesn't matter because the mask is designed to catch the respiratory droplets. Now, we can talk about how big the respiratory droplets are and what the mask is made out of and all that's fair game, and it's all a good portion of the argument. I don't want to get into that. But if you're wearing a reasonable mask that's, not necessarily a medical grade mask, but something with a tight woven fabric that's going to stop the respiratory droplets, that's the goal of the mask, is that if you sneeze, the respiratory droplets are not going to travel far and hit someone else. And so the 6 foot of social distancing helps in that regard, but the mask helps much more because 6 feet is not enough to prevent respiratory droplets from contacting someone else. They can go further than 6 feet. Imagine if it's a windy day. The respiratory droplets can go further than 6 feet. And so there's that whole aspect of things that people, I think, don't ever understand, or they're up in arms about, or they're complaining about, or whatever. But, yeah, some people on Twitter just irritate me, and they're dumb. Actually, most people on Twitter are dumb, including Tom, but that's a different story. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about maybe Shanghai, if we have anything left to say about Shanghai. And then we're going to talk about Disney Springs, what stores are opening on May 20th, and then what we know so far about what's happening a week after that. And just sort of recap what we expect, and we'll kind of go from there. So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors or other WDWNT shows, whatever the case may be.
Dreamfinders is WDW News Today's podcast all about the creative culture surrounding Disney parks. Authors, Imagineers, dancers, actors, photographers, filmmakers, and a whole lot more have all stopped by to chat about how Disney has inspired their artistic work.
But I still remember sitting in conference tables and looking across at Michael and Jeffrey Katzenberg and this sort of little 6-year-old inside of me going, what in heaven's name is going on here?
And we're off and running, and Tony needs someone to lay it out for him. And there's no architect available. So the next thing I know, I'm laying out the pavilion.
I got to tell you, I have not enjoyed a podcast so much. It's just a warm conversation, and a warm and intelligent conversation, which you don't find that often in podcasts.
Dreamfinders. Episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher.
4 panelists, 30 minutes, 1 week in Disney Parks news. This is Parks Center. On Parks Center, the panel and I cover the top 7... 7? Yeah, 7 Disney Park stories of the past week. From attraction news to transportation scandals to new food and merchandise, we'll cover it all in 30 minutes or less. You can watch us stream live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. at www.intunes.com, watch episodes on demand at youtube.com/wdwnt, or subscribe to the audio version of the show on your favorite podcast app.
WDW News Tonight is our weekly comedy show combining the news of the week, comedy segments, thoughtful discussions, insane characters, parody commercials, games, and more. Watch live on Thursdays at 9 p.m. and become a Wigs member to get access to a bonus post show. Watch WDW News Tonight episodes anytime and live on YouTube, or get the audio-only version on iTunes and other podcast services.
Shoes. There we go. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll put out a shout out to the wigs. I see a lot of wigs in the chat tonight. Thank you. And anybody who's interested, go to patreon.com/WDWNT. For as low as $2 a month, you can join the wigs program, which gets you access to post shows and a bunch of other things. At higher levels, you get access to prizes on our prize wall. We've also been doing a number of articles during the park's closure, taking a look back at historical documents like annual reports and press kits from Epcot opening and things like that. And so all of those are available as high-resolution PDFs to download for WIGS members. So there's plenty of content that we're putting out there for WIGS members. You get a post show every week after WDW News Tonight. You get a post show after Park Center on Wednesdays. So there's plenty of content for WIGS, and it's only $2 a month to start. So please check out patreon.com/WDWNT. Also, I should mention to the WIGS members, thank you, Mike, for the super chat. Yes, Mike's one of our longtime WIGS members. I'll also mention that very recently we've put out the complete back catalog of the Back to the Future segments from the WDW News Today podcast. That entire back catalog of those segments is available for download to WIGS members at the $7 level and above. There's also the back catalog of the Christmas podcast parade, which was something ridiculous that we used to do before we came up with even more ridiculous things to do. There are the whole back catalog, 5 seasons worth of the Super Obscure show that WIGS members at the $7 level can download. So there's tons of stuff available, and more's coming every day. We're going to put out some more podcast back episodes in the coming weeks, and those PDFs of all this historical stuff, I've got 20 more to scan this week that we're going to provide to you guys. So yes, shout out. Thank you, WIGS, for joining. Thank you for tuning in tonight. There was one more thing. So when I was going off on my little soapbox before the commercial, there's one thing I forgot. So I'm going to continue on my soapbox for the next minute, and then we're going to talk about some Disney parks. The other thing that I see on Twitter and Facebook that people keep complaining about repeatedly is that Orlando in June is 100 degrees and I can't wear a face mask because I'm going to pass out from the heat. The people that wear face masks in China and Japan, I think it gets to be 100 degrees in Southeast Asia in the summer too. And those people seem to wear face masks, and they seem to be fine with it, and they don't seem to be passing out when they go to Disney parks in Southeast Asia. So I think in Florida, you'll probably be okay, and it doesn't get to be 100 degrees most days. It's in the 90s a lot of the time. So anybody who thinks they're going to pass out, people do it. People wear the face masks all day to the parks in China and Hong Kong and Japan in the summer when it's really hot and humid, and they're not dying. So that's the rest of my little soapbox.
Jason,
Yes.
to that point, it's always hot. We still have to wear pants, although clearly Winnie the Pooh and Donald Duck are not wearing pants, and still I do. Also, DVC lounge for the DVC members, we still have to keep our shoes on. So, I mean, a mask, it'll pass. It will pass.
Yes, it will. And yeah, I'd be much cooler walking around the parks if I didn't have to wear pants or shoes, although my feet would probably burn from the hot cement. But yeah, we have to wear pants. They're not comfortable, but we have to wear them. Think about the poor cast members who can't even wear shorts, and they're not comfortable. They're going to have to be at work in the parks wearing long pants and their cast outfit and a mask, and some of them have to wear a hat, and that's going to make their head hot. You know, they're all going through the same thing as we are.
I do think
if you are concerned, go ahead, Axel.
I think it's going to be good for Disney profit, because it's true when you wear the mask for a long time. I don't know what happens, but I get tired when I wear the mask, and I think once you're in the park and you want to take off your mask, there's an easy way to do it. You go into a restaurant, you sit down, and you have something to eat, to drink. And I think that will be like a plus for Disney, and especially their income, is like people to avoid wearing the mask. They will go and have drinks, food, whatever, so they can take off their mask for a moment and enjoy their food or drink, whatever. So there's still options. It's not that you have to wear the mask the whole time. And I'm sure if you go to the toilet, you can take it off as well.
If you're the person that thinks you're going to pass out from the heat because you're wearing a mask, you have the option, as Axel said, to stay home. You don't have to come to a Disney park. So just like if I'm the kind of person that says I'm going to pass out in the heat from wearing pants, then I don't have to come to a Disney park when it's hot. It's my choice. I can stay home if I don't like the conditions that are imposed on entering private property. So anyway, there we go. Let's talk about... Go ahead, Rob. You want to go off on a diatribe too? Absolutely. Please do.
No, well, I mean, sort of. I mean, I guess just to piggyback on what Axel was saying, there will be times where you can take a break. Just the same way that when you're in Florida in the heat, you find a way to take a break from the heat. You go into a restaurant and you sit down in the air conditioning and you order an appetizer and just you sit for a while and you recharge. I think there's going to be opportunities to do that. But for me personally, I am jonesing so hard right now for a Disney park that if you told me that I could only wear purple and I had to carry a purse and I had to wear 8 masks, I would do it at this point because
dress,
I just want to be in there. Exactly. You know what? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I'll go in. But I mean, for me right now, I'm ready to follow those rules, whatever it is, just because I want to get back in there. And I think most of us who are like going to go into a partially open park are going to do that. They're going to follow those rules. So I don't see that being too huge a problem. And I mean, I think that your soapbox point is valid all the way, is if you don't want to wear a mask, then don't go. It's you know, we're just trying to take care of the cast members and each other. And if you feel like you can't do that, then you probably shouldn't be there anyway. So I mean, again, for me, I'm ready to do whatever that I need to do so I can go and have a good time again.
Yep. Very good. Very well said. Thank you.
Jason.
Okay. Yes.
Jason, just before we change and we leave Shanghai, there's one thing that is important. Well, is important to me and to know like how we're going to handle things here, and that's the reservation system. You cannot just go down to the park and enter whenever you please. You have to have a reservation, and those reservation tickets, or whatever you call them, were gone like in a heartbeat. It went really, really quick, and
yes, it did.
I think that at a certain point we don't have an option than doing this here, just to be sure that we're not at capacity and somebody drives 5 hours just to arrive here at the gate, where they say like, okay, family, we have your temperature, you all have your masks, but we're at capacity. You can wait here until 5 other people walk out. So I don't know how they're going to do it.
I mean, that happens on Christmas Day, right?
But
like there's always the people. It's the same argument before, Axel. There's always the people that are going to say, oh, I didn't know I had to make a reservation. I didn't have to make a reservation last time I came. So you're going to have that. I think my biggest question about the reservation system, and this isn't clear from everything that I've read about Shanghai, if you are staying at the Shanghai Disneyland Hotel, do you have to have a reservation to enter the park? And that question's relevant because if you're staying at the Polynesian, like I will be in the middle of June, do I need to have a reservation to enter the park? Or are the people that have resort reservations automatically accounted for in the capacity measurement so that it's only the day trip people or locals who need to make the reservation, and by me having a hotel reservation at a Disney resort, I'm already accounted for in that total? That's my question.
And are they going to have like priority for annual pass holders? Like in Europe, parks starting to open. So from amusement parks to zoos, whatever. And you see like a lot of those places giving a priority. Like some places will have their first month that is exclusively for pass holders. And they've seen their sales in passes go up like crazy. Then there's other places that say like, okay, you can start making reservations as from Monday, and then the reservation system opens on Friday for pass holders, where you can still have this priority and still feel like, okay, this brings me something. This is something that's worth having an annual pass at this place. Just like the month for annual pass holders, they saw their sale of annual passes go through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as you don't have to do it through the My Disney Experience app or Shop Disney, I'm sure it's going to be flawless to make those reservations and get your priority. But unfortunately, we're stuck with the worst technology of any big company in the world right now. And so it's going to be real interesting to see how virtual queues are going to work when they're required for 25 attractions instead of just one. It's going to be real interesting to see how My Disney Experience is going to work when they open up the reservation system. It's going to be real interesting to watch this all happen and how often the app crashes and how many people get annoyed, because I think it's just going to be an exact repeat of everything that happens every morning at Hollywood Studios when people try to get boarding groups for Rise of the Resistance. So I don't hold out a lot of hope that any of these technological systems are going to work well enough. But I think, I think you're going to need to have a reservation. And if they open the reservations to annual pass holders earlier than everyone else, I think that's great. It's an absolutely great perk for annual pass holders to be able to get their reservations sooner. Obviously, a lot of annual pass holders are locals, and so that takes care of the locals as well as the pass holders. People like Rob are saying he's so excited to get into a Disney park, he'd be the perfect person that would upgrade to an annual pass just to be able to get in this priority sort of fashion. So
yeah, he would.
Yeah,
He
no,
would
I think
definitely
it's
do that.
great. Absolutely. Absolutely, I think they should give priority.
Jason, there's a model that was kind of already in place for all this, and it was when Galaxy's Edge opened up in California.
Yes.
To your point about hotels, the hotel reservations, if you had a hotel reservation, then you were guaranteed to get in, or they also had other reservations available, right? And then, they kept that for the first month, and they kept cast members out at the same time. So there is already basically a model that they've got right there that we wondered at the time, is this something that they're going to bring to Florida, and they never needed to, but it exists already, and they could just model it after that.
Can I bring up like a really kind of random point? What I worry about is that if it's this reservation or, if you have a hotel room, it gets you into the park, is that there are going to be those people that go out and book all the hotel rooms and then attempt to resell the access to the park, because that's gonna happen. I hate to be that person that thinks like that, but
you're absolutely right that people are going to try to scam the system or make money off the system. I mean, they do that every day. Shop Disney releases new merchandise and it's a complete disaster. So why wouldn't they try to
made me
think of it. Make a living?
Ouch.
But I think that's, I mean, obviously with magic bands and such, I think there's ways to make sure that the person who's staying at the hotel reservation is the person who's going into the park. But honestly, if I'm staying at a hotel and I want to, add somebody to my reservation so that they can get in the park too, the hotel sleeps 4 people in a hotel room, so you can put 4 people on your reservation. That's fine. I think those have to be accounted for, and I think those have to be accounted for based on the number of hotel reservations they have before they decide how many people to let in the park that day. But also keep in mind that they've announced that only Magic Kingdom resorts are going to be open. Well, they haven't announced this. We speculate, based on internally leaked documents, that Magic Kingdom resorts are going to be the only ones that are open when the parks first reopen. So that drastically caps the number of resort reservation holders. Just like at Disneyland, there's only 3 hotels at Disneyland, so there were still plenty of Galaxy's Edge reservations for non-resort holders, and I think the same is going to be true at Disney World when you've only got 3 or 4 hotels open out of the 19 that they have now. And there are also 3 or 4 of the smaller ones because they're the deluxe ones, not the sprawling All-Stars or Pop or something like that. So I think they could absolutely factor that in, and I hope they do, because I have a hotel reservation, and then I'm not going to have to fight the scalpers to book a reservation online when they finally open those up.
I think it might be a lot of concerns, which maybe we shouldn't have those concerns, because as you said, Jason, who is willing to pay a premium amount to get half or even a quarter of what the experience is like? If I go to the Magic Kingdom, my favorite part is at the end of the night, and no matter if I watch the fireworks from the park or the Polynesian, it doesn't matter. But that's one of the things, like when you're at the Magic Kingdom and you have this experience, you want to see the fireworks. We're not going to have any fireworks. There's no parades, and like there's no character meets. So do you want to spend this premium amount to go to a park that it will not operate as usual? So I think the people going will be the ones who have annual passes or have already
DVC members. Yep, sure.
Or DVC, but still, DVC members do not always have annual passes. It doesn't have to be that you're DVC and you have passes.
No, I'm just saying DVC because you've already got your hotel paid for, basically.
Yeah, but I think that maybe a lot of people are going to wait this out and are going to see, like, I want to have bang of my buck. And then if it's only the Magic Kingdom resorts, then I mean, it would make sense that you're not going to open any Epcot resorts when that park would stay closed.
When Epcot's not open, yeah.
Yeah, and then nobody said that as of the first day they're going to open Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. So why would you do that? My question is more like, I'm a pass holder. I paid that premium amount. Will they honor my pass for all the parks? Or will they just extend my pass until the first of the parks is back open? I think they will honor it until everything is back open. But I have a pass where the water parks are included. So what about those parks? Like I took that pass because I like to go to the water parks. If I can't, how are they going to extend that for me?
Right. If the water parks don't open at the same time as the theme parks, then are they going to extend the water park entry past? That's going to be a huge nightmare to get all that worked out. Interestingly, in Shanghai, we know that they are extending the annual pass expiry date for the number of days they were closed until they reopen without reservations required. So the reservation, the time that they're open, that they require reservations to get into the park is not counted towards your annual pass. It's counted as if they were closed, because obviously everybody with an annual pass isn't going to be able to make a reservation. So in Shanghai, it sounds like they're doing the right thing and making sure that their annual pass holders are not penalized if they can't get a reservation. And so that's... we'll see what happens with things like water parks or whatever. I mean, imagine the people that have the Epcot After 4 pass, and Epcot's not open, but everything else is open. You know, they're going to be extended a different amount than everyone else. So, yeah, I want to address a couple questions in the chat. What we think based on those documents we talked about a couple weeks ago. They said the Magic Kingdom resorts are going to be open, whether that includes Wilderness Lodge or not. I mean, Wilderness Lodge is a Magic Kingdom resort. It's classified as a Magic Kingdom resort, even though it's not on the monorail. But those documents also said that monorails will not be operating, and neither will boat transportation, I don't think, which means everybody's going to have to take a bus, whether you're staying at the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian or the Wilderness Lodge. Anyway, people at the Contemporary can walk, lucky for them. But yeah, it's only going to be Grand Floridian, Polynesian, and Contemporary, and probably Wilderness Lodge, but I'm not entirely sure because it's not, I mean, it's a Magic Kingdom resort, so I would think so, but it could be left off. We don't know yet.
Hey, Jason.
Yep.
Can I say something real quick? So based on
Sure.
what you're talking about, let's say it's Wilderness, Floridian, Polynesian, and Contemporary, and all their DVC properties. So some quick math, that's 3,977 rooms if they are booked up, which if you're doing times 4 on an average for a room is 15,908 people if they are at capacity and they are including Wilderness Lodge. Just a little bit of a number of geeks. I want to run that.
Yeah, so, and that's, I mean, I don't know that they count 4 people per room as the average. The average is probably 3. So, you know, you're looking at less than, what'd you say, 15,000?
It's 15,000.
You're looking at less than 15,000 if those resorts are basically completely booked. The capacity of the Magic Kingdom is somewhere very close to 100,000. And so even if it would open at 25% capacity, that's still 25,000 people. So the resort guests would account for maybe half of that. And that's only the Magic Kingdom. So if Studios and Animal Kingdom opens, then the resort guests are going to account for even less than half of the total capacity of any of those parks. So yeah, that's great to have those numbers. Thank you for looking that up, Rob. That's super helpful. Obviously, at Shanghai, there's only 2 hotels, so the number of hotel guests is going to be less. But still, you know, if there's 11 or 12,000 people at the resorts, and the park capacity is 25,000, those numbers are pretty promising for people that aren't staying at a Disney resort. There's still going to be plenty of reservations to get. Not that they won't sell out in 5 minutes, but there's going to be a lot of reservations.
Still, transportation surprises me, Jason, because
absolutely,
I would say that the monorail is, you can control. You have a better crowd control on a monorail than you have on a bus. Yep. And then the driver
absolutely think
is also separate
exposed
from
to the people.
The rest.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I would absolutely think if the monorail resorts are open,
really weird.
It totally makes sense to have the monorail open if the monorail resorts are 3 of the 4 resorts that are open. It doesn't make sense to have to run buses that are going to be crowded when a monorail can hold so many more people in a bus. It kind of boggles my mind that the monorails aren't supposed to be open. And the same with the boat. Like the boat from Wilderness Lodge, they have a huge boat that they run that can hold probably 3 busloads worth of people with social distancing in place. So it doesn't make any sense to not run that boat and the monorails. So
Well,
we'll
it
see what
depends.
happens. I mean, those documents are 3 weeks old at this point, so who knows what they're coming up with now.
Jason, are those boats operated by the college program? Because if they are, they might just not run. Maybe that's the reason why.
I think a lot of watercraft cast members are not college program. My basic feeling is whenever I've ridden on a boat, they're some of the older, long-time cast members that have been in the watercraft department for a long time. I think certainly the college program cast members are probably the ones that, help you into the boat or work at the docks or whatever. But I'm pretty sure the captains of the boats are generally older, long-time cast members. That's my recollection.
Oh, Jason, I saw in the chat there's somebody asking about the Skyliner. I think at the
we don't know
very
if the
beginning,
Skyliner's going to
depending
be
on
open.
Yeah, if it's going to be like Magic Kingdom, let's say like even half of the parks, and they go for Animal Kingdom because the animal carers are there and working, and they have to leave the animals out. So even if you go for Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom, that Skyliner has no use for the parks.
Right.
So I don't see that opening right away.
Well, so the Skyliner only really has use if Caribbean Beach and Riviera and Pop and Art of Animation are open. And if they're not open at the beginning, then you can't really get anywhere. And obviously the Epcot resorts are not open either, so you can't open that. So no, I don't think the Skyliner is going to be open at the beginning. I think when they open the Skyliner resorts, then they'll probably run the Skyliner. Because it could certainly be used to go from Caribbean Beach to Studios or whatever. And I think, honestly, the Skyliner is a great transportation mode in terms of social distancing, simply because you can put one party in each gondola and have your built-in social distancing. And you still have the issue of sanitizing in between guests, but you have that issue on the bus too. So with the Skyliner constantly moving, it's a little more tricky to sanitize in between. But the social distancing is in place, so it's
and even on the bus, I think the driver is at risk. Is that driver? I think he's going to have no other option than wear a face mask, or they're going to have to adapt the bus that there's a plexi, like covering the driver, to be sure. We've seen that on different, and also like getting on the bus only through the back door, not using like the front door just to protect them. I mean, there's options, but still. A bus, there's no crowd control. You can say like, okay, you can't sit here. But if somebody's standing, he's still going to stand in front of you. He might stand in front of you, or she.
Yeah, I think bus capacity is going to have to be drastically reduced. Like, there's not going to be any standing, and parties are going to be able to sit together, but then you're probably going to have to leave one or two open seats between parties. So it's conceivable that a bus can only transport 15 to 20 people instead of its normal capacity of like 50 to 60. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I wonder if the buses are going to have fewer stops. That way it's, it goes from one hotel, it picks up the guests, takes them to, the park, and then they sanitize the bus, and then the guests coming, get on, go to the resort,
it would make
sanitize.
Sense.
Because I think that's what the biggest issue is with the transportation. Because you think about the monorail, it's not like if you're talking an express monorail, that's one thing, and maybe that's what they'll start with. But there's several stops, and you can't slow it down every time and pick which cars people got out of or people are getting in. And I think that's where the whole, that's, I think, is the big issue with the transportation. And going back to Universal, they have one parking garage, and that's how you get to the City Walk and Volcano Bay, and everything is through that kind of same central area, whereas Disney is not. It's got like a lot more.
Two things that I think they could do is, the monorails are 6 cars long, and so you could designate the front two cars are for the Polynesian, and the middle two are for the Contemporary, and the rear two are for the Grand Floridian, and that way they can only load those cars at those resorts, and then they get to the Magic Kingdom and everybody gets out, then they can sanitize. So that's one possibility. I mean, I don't think resort hopping is going to be a super common thing first thing in the morning, so everybody's just going to get out at the Magic Kingdom. As far as the buses go, I think, they're going to have to, it certainly doesn't make any sense to have a bus that goes from All-Star Movies to All-Star Music to All-Star Sports and then to the Magic Kingdom, because if the capacity is only 20 people to begin with, you're going to fill up with 20 people at one of those resorts. So it makes absolute sense to go point to point and not have stops in between. And I think you're probably right that that's exactly what they'll do from the beginning, is that you'll go, instead of having a bus that shares between the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, you'll have a Polynesian bus that goes directly to Animal Kingdom, and you'll have a Grand Floridian bus that goes directly to Animal Kingdom. And those buses are going to get quickly filled to their maximum capacity of whatever it is, 15 or 20. I think they'll be able to do things like that. But that's going to take an awful lot of buses. When you can only fill a bus with 15 or 20 people, that's going to take an awful lot of buses. So, but yeah, we'll see.
Hey, Jason, I have a random question to ask you before you move on.
Oh, sure.
I have a random question for you. So basically, we're talking about Disney Springs opening up, and we're talking about the hotels opening up, probably just starting at the Magic Kingdom. Because Boardwalk is an actual entertainment district unto itself, even though it is part of those hotels, do you think there's any way, because I was thinking about this when you were talking about the gondola system, do you think there's any way that they would open up the Boardwalk amenities, all of those restaurants and shops and things, before they open up that hotel? Or do you think they're not going to open that until those Epcot resorts open?
My guess, and this is just a guess because I haven't read anything in any documents about this specifically. My guess is that the Boardwalk is not going to open until the rest of the Crescent Lake resorts open. But in terms of shops and restaurants, there's more restaurants at the Boardwalk than at your average resort. But I think if they're gonna focus on the Magic Kingdom resorts, then they're gonna have the restaurants at those resorts obviously open. And so you're between the resort restaurants for the resorts that are open and the Springs restaurants that are all going to be open, I don't think they're going to feel the need for the Boardwalk restaurants and entertainment specifically. So my guess, it certainly is possible that Boardwalk Yacht and Beach will be the next resorts to open after the Magic Kingdom resorts. They're deluxe resorts, so that's the biggest moneymaker for Disney. It makes total sense. So that may very well be like the second wave of resorts to open. But I don't know. But yeah, I think the Boardwalk amenities will open when the Boardwalk opens, but I don't think that's going to be right away.
Gotcha. Cool.
All right. So although we don't have a stopping time, we usually try to keep this to about 2 hours, just because people have to get to bed, including me. So let's talk a bit about Disney Springs, because Disney Springs is opening up in 3 days. It's opening on Wednesday, May 20th. Only third-party restaurants and stores are opening on Wednesday, and any Disney-owned and operated restaurants and stores are not opening until a week later on May 27th. So I know we posted a bunch of articles, and I don't have the list off the top of my head, but there's a fair number of restaurants opening at Disney Springs, and then a couple of stores at the beginning. So I guess my biggest question is, And based on what happened at CityWalk, it may be similar. The very first day they open, there's going to be a huge crush of people because there's been, like Rob, there's been people that have been aching to get back to anything Disney, whether even if it's just Disney Springs with only third-party restaurants. There's still people that are going to want to go. And of course, WWNT is going to send some reporters at the very beginning when they first open. And all the other blogs and vlogs and people are going to be there too to see what's going on. But the question is, after the first day, when there's probably going to be crowds and there's going to have to be some capacity controls. I mean, Disney Springs has a lot more shops and restaurants than CityWalk. It's a lot more spread out. There's a lot more space than CityWalk. So in terms of what to expect, my thought is, after the first day, Thursday might be a pretty slow day, and then you're a Memorial Day weekend. Whether this was a good idea to open the middle of the week before Memorial Day weekend, I don't know. I mean, at least up here in Pennsylvania, a lot of people take Memorial Day weekend and they do things like go to the shore. Obviously, in Florida, you can go to the shore any weekend. It doesn't really matter. But whether people are going to do things like go to Disney Springs on Memorial Day weekend just because it's a long weekend, I don't know. I don't know what Floridians do. Sometimes they're nuts. But I think when Disney, like Disney store, owned and operated stores like the World of Disney, open on the 27th, I think that's going to be a much bigger deal. And more people are going to want to flock back, just like Axel talked about at the beginning of the show, that the Universal Studios store in CityWalk was open, and people were happy to get in there and do a little shopping. I think that's absolutely going to happen at Disney Springs when the Disney owned stores open. So what do you guys think?
That's why Shop Disney's been so horrible. They just want people to come back with a vengeance trying to buy stuff.
Yeah, and I think people will be so happy to, because, man, Shop Disney is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like the internet in 1994. It's a disaster.
I think for the restaurants,
I'm in the midst of writing an article about the disaster that is Shop Disney, because yesterday's merchandise release was a mess too. But let's not talk about that. Me. Go ahead, Axel.
So I think like Disney Springs is mainly third-party restaurants, and I think a lot of them, except the Landry locations, are opening. So I think we will see the crowds. We'll definitely see them. I don't think that we're going to see such a high peak on Memorial Day weekend because there's a lot of other places opening as well. Maybe some of your other favorite restaurants are going to open. Maybe more stuff is going to open on CityWalk. So I don't know how the crowds will react to that. I do think we're going to see quite a lot of people on Wednesday, especially because the hours are not limited as CityWalk, because we didn't talk about the hours of CityWalk, but CityWalk is open from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Normally, Disney Springs should do 10 to midnight. There's been talk that they wouldn't open before 11 on the 20th, but still, it's still they open a.m. no matter if it's 10 or 11. It's a difference with 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so it will leave more time to go to Disney Springs. So what I think is we're going to see people arriving for lunch. They are going to go again. Then you're going to have the people that just come in the afternoon to take a walk, to check things out, and then you're going to have the dinner crowds. Those were all kind of combined at CityWalk. So I think the spread could be better at Disney, not only because the space is bigger, but I think timing is of an issue as well. You have a choice. I don't think there's people going to arrive, well, except for Tom, going to arrive at 10 a.m. and stay until 12 midnight. So I think we're going to see a flux in people coming and going. But I'm looking forward to it, and I know I'm not the only one. There's people looking forward to this. I think we're going to see a lot of people with cameras in their hands, and the bloggers and the vloggers. But what do you want? If it's your job and you have good relations with Disney, you have to go check that out.
I'm looking down this list, and you had said about a list, Jason. So it looks like it's over 20 places there in McKenna, Polite Pig, Four Rivers, Joffrey's, Chicken Guy, Earl of Sandwich, and then some actual stores, mostly ones nobody wants to shop in, like Pele Soccer and Crystal Arts. But there are going to be a lot more things open here than there were at CityWalk. Yeah, they are opening up later than CityWalk did, but I do think that there will be more things. And to your point earlier, you said it's more spread out. But I think it's going to be interesting to see who comes first. Yeah, I think that Axel's right. It's going to be a lot of the bloggers who are going to go and see, like, hey, we're finally getting to go here. But it's almost like the delayed opening of Galaxy's Edge is like, do I really want to make the pilgrimage if I'm a little further away until all the Disney stuff is open too? Because for me, that's what makes that's what makes Disney Springs special, is the Disney stuff that's there, the World of Disney, the Marketplace Co-op, Deluxe Burger, things like that. So
you're not going to drive down from North Carolina just to go to Disney Springs.
I don't know. I mean, again, it's like...
Wait, have you been thinking about it?
I mean, maybe, yeah, I might have been thinking about it a little bit. So I do think it's pretty smart for them not to open the Disney stuff before Memorial Day. My guess is the third-party people wanted that Memorial Day business, and that's why they wanted to open earlier. And that Disney was like, we want a soft open, and so we don't want to do it on like one of the bigger travel weekends of the year. So let's do ours after all that happens. Plus, they get to see kind of how the fallout happens along the way. But I think that you'll see two different waves of people, but I definitely think having like the Boathouse and Wolfgang Puck and Wine Bar George and the Sunshine Churros, that's a lot of stuff that's going to be open, that I do think it'll be worth it for people to come and ramp up towards the Disney stuff opening up. You were talking about, when we were talking about CityWalk, you were talking about the parking deck. I feel like Disney does a ton better job at parking than Universal does, and that may just be me, but I've driven into both, and I kind of hate going to Universal because they kind of change the system on you and move cones, and you're trying to go and you came this way last time but it's this way this time, and depends on what time of day it is and where they have stuff open. And it's pretty straightforward to me for Disney Springs is they've got the signs out front that says this lot is full, and so before you get there and get stuck in some kind of a traffic situation, that's not going to be the lot you go in because that one's full. So they've got a lot of great signage out there.
Those signs are wrong.
Okay.
Don't listen to them.
Those signs are wrong much of the time.
So I've usually had pretty good luck with the signs, but if the signs are wrong, but then
when they say it's full, there's definitely the parking is getting full, but they oftentimes will say the Lime garage is full because they don't want you to park there. They want you to park in the Orange garage. So they tell you Lime is full, but you can go into Lime and there's plenty of spots. So those signs are really more social engineering to get them to do to get you to do what they want you to do, than it is actually telling you the status of the parking garage. But that's neither here nor there. The Universal system is much more akin to like Magic Kingdom parking lot than it is to Disney Springs.
Yeah, that may be how it is on a regular basis, but I hope that they're going to be more, if that's the fact, that they're going to be more honest when it comes to the situation that we're in right now. But even so, with the lights when you go to park, they don't have to have a cone if they put a red dot there at the top that says this one's taken. And then if you're paying attention and follow the rules, that's fine. You may not follow the rules at all and go, oh, well, even though the red light's on, that space is open, I'm going to park in it anyway because I'm the best in the whole wide world and I get to do whatever I want. But I do think that they usually have parking attendants there, and they're usually moving cones around to where you can and can't go. So I think they do a pretty good job there. I think we're knocking them a little hard for that one, but I do think that it'll be a good...
I've never seen a parking attendant in a garage.
Seriously?
Never seen a parking attendant in a garage moving cones or anything. No, never.
I have. I have seen that at Disney Springs. So, but again, that's only because they were standing in front of where I wanted to go. Do I know that that's why that they were there? They weren't helping me. They were keeping me from going where I wanted to go. But I do know that they were there when that was happening, because I thought to myself the same thing. Like, there's plenty of spaces on this level. I don't want to go up to the third floor. I do have some confidence that they're going to be a little bit better at that, but this is definitely going to be kind of like the Shanghai thing. It's going to be sort of a litmus test to see how, I think more than anything, how people react and how well they behave and follow the rules and everything else. But they're definitely going to have some masks available, because I do agree, like we talked about earlier, that not everyone is going to look. I mean, they did a great job with these rules that they put together. One of the things I wonder is Disney usually has a person in their videos telling you the things in a very soft, very direct voice. This was a music bed with some slides. I think they would have been better off having somebody hosting it, making sure that you knew what was going on. But, I mean, that's the production quality.
That person was probably furloughed.
Yeah, exactly. They laid out everything. It's just a matter of if people pay attention to it, because it's very clear, and they tell you the same thing 5 different times, and people probably will still not pay attention.
Yep. What's super interesting? Sorry, go ahead, Axel.
Oh no, I think that especially with everything, I expect a lot of people to be there. So it will definitely be interesting to see how they're going to handle the parking, how they're going to handle the waiting until you get your temperature taken. I still, like, the day that City Walk opened, on some kind of local news channel, there was a theme park expert, like the best expert I've ever seen, who said, like, oh, I don't expect a lot of people to go there. Like, people are still scared, they stay at home. And like, I couldn't disagree more. Like, you take something away from people and people want it even more. It's like you take away a toy from a kid and he's going to want to play with it. And that's what's happening with City Walk. That's what's going to happen with Disney Springs. So even though if the Disney stores or operated stores aren't going to be open, I think we're going to see a lot of people. And that will increase the week after that when everything opens. But I think people are hungry to get back to Disney, and Disney Springs is this first step. So it will be very interesting to see what's going to happen and how they're going to handle it. It will be a big test for what's to come to the parks.
Yeah, this is going to be a big test of how people learn and follow the rules. And it's also going to be a big test of how Disney and their third-party people handle the reopening and handle the people and handle the social distancing measures and things like that. What I find really interesting is the relatively blunt disclaimer that Disney put on their Disney Springs website. That basically spells it out. It says, an inherent risk of exposure to COVID-19 exists in any public place where people are present. COVID-19 is an extremely contagious disease that can lead to severe illness and death. By visiting Walt Disney World Resort, you voluntarily assume all risks related to exposure to COVID-19. Like, that's their disclaimer on the website. Whether, you have to sign something or whether it's legally enforceable just to have a disclaimer, and they'll probably have that on a sign at the parking garage or whatnot. But that's pretty blunt, that Disney's basically saying, well, you're screwed if you get sick, which has always been the case. I mean, it's not like anybody with whatever sickness has had any legal recourse against Disney. But it's just pretty interesting how blunt they were in putting that right on the homepage. So that's kind of funny. I also want to go on a little tangent and a little rant. It says, an inherent risk of exposure to COVID-19 exists. Well, actually, it doesn't. The risk is to the virus. You're exposed to the virus. COVID-19 is not the virus. COVID-19 is the name of the disease that you get when you're exposed to the virus. So the virus is called the coronavirus. There's a name for it. But coronavirus, generally speaking, is the virus, and you're exposed to the virus. You're not exposed to COVID-19. COVID-19 is a disease. It's not something you get exposed to. I mean, technically speaking, someone could have COVID-19, the disease, and you're exposed to them, so you're exposed to COVID-19. You can't catch COVID-19. You are exposed to the coronavirus, and then you develop the disease. So anyway, that's just another rant of media not knowing these terms and throwing things around and not actually understanding what they mean. But nonetheless, yeah, I think Disney Springs is going to be a huge learning experience for Disney, and it's going to be a huge learning experience for the general public, and it's going to be real interesting to watch and see what happens. And so I'm happy that WDWNT is sending our reporters there, and we're going to see what happens. And yeah, obviously hours are going to be curtailed. Not everything's going to be open. The following week, when Disney things start to open, World of Disney is open, but of course the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is going to be closed. Deluxe Burger is going to be open. What's that?
I was just saying that I'm devastated that the Bibbidi Bobbidi is going to be closed.
Bibbidi Bobbidi
I don't know what
Boutique.
to do. I need a makeover hard. Yeah,
it's terrible. You're going to cancel your reservations now. So World of Disney will be open, but Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is not. Deluxe Burger's going to be open, but only for mobile order. It says, I don't know. Oh, it says only the Orange and Lime garages are going to be open, but I don't know who would park in the Grapefruit garage anyway because it's so far away. It doesn't make any sense. Those with temperatures above 100.4 will not be allowed entry. Those in their party will not be allowed entry either. So if you're going with someone who's got a temperature of 100.4 and you want to get into Disney Springs, you better act like you don't know them. I mean, that's the rules they put into place. Obviously, because if they're in your party, you drove to the place with them, you've been exposed to whatever they have that's causing them to have a temperature. So it makes perfect sense that those in their party will not be allowed entry. That's the safe thing to do. That makes perfect sense. But again, I can see people being up in arms when they're denied entry when they have a temperature of 98.6 because they happen to come with somebody whose temperature was 100.4 and they didn't know it. That's going to be a huge thing. I think that's going to be arguments there are certainly going to happen whenever people get turned away. One thing also that's interesting on the Disney Springs website, it says at this time it is recommended that all guests use cashless or contactless payment options such as credit cards, debit cards, Disney gift cards, yada yada, and mobile wallets, including Apple Pay. Guests may purchase a Disney gift card at select merchandise locations to pay without cash. When the parks first closed and Shop Disney stopped selling gift cards online, people were going on and on about how this is the end of gift cards because too many people touch them. They're promoting paying with a gift card over cash. And so I think that whole talk of gift cards being phased out was way premature. It's also relatively absurd because if you don't pay with a gift card, you're going to pay with a credit card. And what's the actual real difference between a gift card and a credit card? In terms of handling, there's not much. I mean, you put the credit card in the chip reader slot and you swipe the gift card. But now with the gift cards that have the 2D barcode on the back, they scan it. They don't even have to touch it. They just scan the barcode on the back. So the gift cards looks like they are not going away as some people thought. But they're actually being recommended as a cashless payment situation.
Jason, could you imagine Disney having an app where they could have like a virtual gift card on it, where you just open your app, you show a QR code,
Show a QR code and they scan it? Wouldn't that be amazing?
That if they would have an app that would do that, that would be like crazy.
It's like Apple Pay, but only for Disney World. I mean, can you imagine if you had like this little bracelet that you put on your arm that you can use for paying, and all you had to do was tap it on a reader and it would just charge your room?
And
that would be amazing.
Big expensive ones and colorful ones. And
That's right. They charge $50 for a Dooney and Bork one. I'm
Jason,
being somewhat facetious, but no, you're absolutely right. And the biggest issue and the biggest difference and the reason why your idea is a good one and the Magic Bands are a terrible one is because you can only charge to Magic Bands if you're a Disney Resort guest. And 80% of the people that go to Disney Springs are either locals or not staying at a Disney resort, probably more than 80%. And so those people need a cashless, contactless payment system like a Magic Band that's not restricted to Disney resort guests. And these people probably all have Magic Bands. I mean, tons of the locals have Magic Bands. So if Disney, all they have to do is, the app is a great idea, but they should tie that in with Magic Bands so that people that aren't Disney resort guests but have a Magic Band can connect their credit card to their Magic Band and then use their Magic Band to pay for things just like a resort guest does. That's like so completely obvious to me that it doesn't surprise me at all that Disney IT hasn't figured that out because of how incompetent they are. But yeah, it's like there's plenty of contactless payment options, whether it's an app with a QR code or a Magic Band or whatever, and Disney's not taking advantage of any of them. I mean, heck, it took them till like 6 months ago to actually get the chip readers working on all their terminals.
The difference with a Magic Band that concerns me, because I've been praying
you
for
can lose it.
Magic Bands. No, you like, if you're a hotel guest, it works well. I still don't understand why, as an annual pass holder, you could not connect your credit card. But every time I use my Magic Band when I'm at a hotel, I need to get my code in. So I need to push 4 buttons, and I know it's only 4 buttons, but you still need to touch.
You don't want to push any buttons.
And with a QR code or with Apple Pay, you don't have to push anything. And correct. I don't know what they're going to do, like in this immediate situation. I think it might come to the point where you will be able to pay with your Magic Band without you needing to put your code in, that the system shows, like, it pops a picture up of your face.
Yeah, so let me tell you, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Right? Right? There's no need for that 4-digit code if the system would just pop up a picture so that the cast member can verify that it's you. Well, let me tell you that the stupid touch points with the finger scanners would be unnecessary if the system just popped up a picture so the cast member could verify that the person swiping the Magic Band was you. But they don't do that because they're too dumb. I don't understand. They've done it at Disneyland for years. Disneyland has had photos connected to their tickets for years. And at Disney, they make you scan your finger with another touch point that's contaminated over and over by people because they don't take your picture. At Shanghai Disneyland, they take your picture. At Hong Kong Disneyland, they take your picture. Why they can't do it at Disney World and get rid of the fingerprint scanners that are so problematic that they cause delays at the entry and also simply cause now a contamination point that's a very frequently used touch point that no one wants to touch. It's obvious to get rid of that and use a picture that's tied to your ticket or your annual pass, but Disney refuses to do it, and I don't know why.
They have been testing. I don't want to go into too much details because it's like the worst park on the planet. Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris has been testing a system where AI just like scans your face And when you re-enter the park, when it's not you, when it's not your face, it will not allow you to enter. That's because in Paris you can still swap tickets and stuff. So they're testing that. They have the technology. But it's the same with security. They have the technology, they use it in Paris, and they don't use it here.
Universal uses some facial recognition there too at their parks.
Yeah, that's essentially facial. And I mean, taking a picture and having it encoded on your pass so that it pops up on the screen when you swipe your ticket or your Magic Band, that's called facial recognition by a human. The cast member looks at you and looks at the picture and decides if it's you or not. I mean, obviously, a computer could do that pretty well, too. Maybe even better than a cast member. But if the cast member's got to be there anyway to make sure that you swipe the ticket right, they don't even need... I mean, there's plenty of people that go off about facial recognition and how it's an invasion of privacy and yada, yada, yada. And I don't want to get into that. But taking your picture and putting it on your annual pass like they do at Disneyland or whatever is certainly feasible, and it's certainly easy to do, and it's certainly better than putting your hand on a grubby, dirty touch point to scan your finger after 400 people did in front of you.
Jason, even 2 days before everything closed, we entered Epcot, and they had the sanitizing stations, the Purell, they had in front of the fingerprint scanner. And when we walked in, we said, like, we don't want to put our finger because you don't clean it after every guest.
Right.
They were like, okay, we'll get you something. So the hand goes in the air, and it's like they come with the iPad. And they explain it. And I asked them, like, why would you put the Purell on the other side? They're like, oh, yeah, but we want people to disinfect before they put their finger on them. Most people just walk by it. And I don't even, like, that was 2 days before everything closed. And like, haven't you learned like anything? And how is Disney, a company like Disney, not prepared?
It is so irritating how many dumb things they do on a regular basis and don't learn from their mistakes, don't fix things, don't, like, there's nobody in the company that's intelligent enough to think about this and figure out a better way to do it. I don't get it. It's like Shop Disney. Whoever runs Shop Disney is like running the rest of the company too, and it's a complete mess. I don't get it. It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. Every time I go into a Disney park, the lack of a X-ray scanner costs me 10 to 15 minutes of standing in a stupid bag check line for a bag check that's way less effective in detecting dangerous things in my bag than an X-ray machine. And so every time I go into Disney Park, I waste 10 to 15 minutes standing there because they refuse to implement a superior technology than what they're currently doing. I don't get it. It's mind-bogglingly dumb to me. I don't understand it. It annoys me. It's part of why if Disney's not open when I go in June, I'll be happy to go to Universal and SeaWorld because I won't have to deal with the stupidity of some of these things.
Oh, Jason, just for the record, Disney has competent and smart people. They're all furloughed right now. So just to make that.
Well, I mean, they had them before. Maybe they weren't coming up with these ideas. I mean, no, I think there are absolutely smart and competent people that work at Disney. I think that there are non-smart and competent people that are their managers that either ignore these good ideas or they budget cut these good ideas. And so the people that are the decision makers are not the smart and competent ones. They're the pencil pushers that cut the budgets and say, we can't afford X-ray machines, yada, yada, yada. Let's just use security guards that rifle through everybody's bags because that's more fun. Like, come on, give me a break. But no, I absolutely think there's smart and competent people at Disney. I know some, and I'm sure there's smart and competent people at most levels within Disney that I clearly cannot be the only person that has come up with these ideas. I mean, I know I'm a smart guy, but I'm not the only smart guy. There has to be other people that have come up with these ideas. Why they haven't implemented them is what's mind-boggling to me. But
because
again,
it takes
You
work.
look at Shop Disney. You look at Shop Disney and why they have the worst online store experience in the world, and they haven't fixed it. That's mind-boggling to me too. But yet they insist on doing it. So, sometimes it's like this company. I give up. There's too many dumb people in charge that shoot down the good ideas, and I give up.
It takes work though to an idea is great, but
they have
then it's we
people.
gotta do.
They're paying
They don't
people
want
to do this
to.
work.
They don't want to.
But they have people there that they're paying. Let them do the work.
You know what? Your bags are already getting checked. Why should we spend money and take time and write new things to get an X-ray machine? You know what? They're already getting checked. That's how they feel. I mean, that's not how I feel, but
No, I understand. But look, if the line moves faster, then it's clear that they need less security officers to check bags if the line is moving faster. And so that's why at Universal they have 10 X-ray machines, but at Epcot they have like 17 different bag checkpoints with 17 security guards checking your bags. They could cut the number of staff in half if they had the X-ray machines. They don't do the long-term calculation of return on investment because they don't think long-term anymore. And that's the biggest problem with this company at all levels, is that they don't think long-term anymore. And honestly, Universal does. I mean, it's clear that they put the X-ray machines in at Universal, and they're staffed with many, many fewer staff than the bag checkpoints at Disney. So it's clearly got to be saving the money, but Disney doesn't do the calculations. They don't think long term enough to come up with these things. And I wish there was somebody in charge at this company that was smart and thought a little bit longer term. Unfortunately, it's not the case. I wish there was also somebody smart at Shop Disney, but what's that? They got fired a few years ago. Yeah, they got laid off. They got laid off years ago. Yeah, I mean, people in the chat, some people are saying in the chat, get me an application at WW Corporate. Yes, I would love that. The bag check is a large visual deterrent. I think an X-ray machine is a pretty damn large visual deterrent, too. Certainly, when you assess the competence of the people rifling through your bag and how easy it would be to hide something in there if you didn't want them to see it, versus hiding something in a bag that goes through an X-ray machine, it's absurd. And my biggest concern, my biggest fear, is that at some point somebody's going to get a gun through Disney security, because Disney security is a joke. Somebody's going to get a gun and they're going to shoot somebody inside a Disney park, and it's going to look really bad for Disney, and it's going to show to the world once and for all that Disney is, the security and the bag check is just a sham. It's just for looks. It's only to make people feel better. It's not to actually make them safer. That's the bottom line. So, anyway. I need to take a breath. Anybody else want to go on a little rant here, or should we call it a night?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Legos. Do we still get to play with the Legos? I know it says
no,
high
God,
touch
no.
areas. I just want to get my hands
really
all
funny.
over the Legos, and that'd be. No.
There was a big thread on Twitter of people like, those Legos are the worst idea ever, and every time I go, I tell my kid they better not touch the Legos. It's so funny. But then, I mean, you think about, you've got the interactive queues, you've got the interactive queue at Winnie the Pooh, you've got the interactive queue at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, where they put in all these things to touch and play with, and you're going to have kids doing it. And we talked about this last week. I mean, you have kids in there that aren't aware of social distancing. You have kids in there that aren't aware of contagiousness of anything, and they're licking their fingers and touching the toys and spitting on them or eating them or putting them in their mouth or licking the walls. And then you go in there and, I don't touch that stuff. people's kids do. I mean, I think 90% of the virus transmission at Walt Disney World is via kids. I mean, adults get sick, but they get it because their kids gave it to them or touched them and gave it to them or whatnot, because the kids were doing things that adults normally wouldn't do for normal cleanliness and hygiene reasons. But anyway, yes, I'm mad today. Anyone else want to go off?
So about being mad, do we know if Starbucks is going to open the first day in Disney Springs? Because some Rob is going to be angry if it doesn't open. Like, not this Rob, but some Rob will be furious if it doesn't open. I
mean, they're third party, but Starbucks are open around the country now too. So I don't know if it's on the list of things.
The one at CityWalk wasn't open though.
No, CityWalk wasn't open, and our Target's Starbucks just recently opened. So, but CityWalk, when I walked in, I looked and I saw the tables, and there were people sitting there like, oh, it's. And then you walk closer, like, oh no, it's closed.
It's not open.
So I'm not sure if they are going to open.
I mean, the Disney website says check DisneySprings.com for an updated list of what's open, but I, for the life of me, can't find an easy to access list of what's open at the present time.
And everything
so,
I've seen. The Disney stuff itself just says Marketplace Co-op, World of Disney, and Deluxe Burger for mobile order. I haven't seen anything else past that. So, like, I was thinking, like, pin traders. I mean, that's a very, you touch a lot of things as you're picking the pins up and putting them back. Is that going to be open? And also Goofy's Candy Company. Like, is that going to be open?
I probably not.
That brings up a good point about the pin trading.
Yeah,
the pin trading, like the lanyards.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be pin trading anymore.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people that buy pins, right? Like, you can certainly buy pins without touching a lot of other pins. I mean, honestly, pin traders is just going to be like any other store where you pick up stuff to look at it and then decide if you want to buy it or not. It's not like you touch more things in pin traders than anywhere else. In fact, you might touch less because you can basically decide what you want to buy by looking at it without having to pick it up and read the back or something like that. So I don't know. But yeah, everything I see only says World of Disney, Marketplace Co-op, and Deluxe Burger mobile order. I guess the other ones will probably come online. It may be a staffing issue too. It just may be that they have enough staff to open those things, and as more staff come on board to come back from the furloughs, they're going to open more stores. It may be that they want to take it slow and see what happens. I don't know.
But Jason, I was thinking, like, not regarding to Disney Springs, but a broader scope. When Disney Springs, Disney-operated shops will open on the 27th, what does that mean for Disney stores in the Orlando area and Disney outlets in the area? Because the outlets are open. Like the
are the outlets open?
Premium outlets. Well, not the Disney outlets, but the outlets itself are open. So that's what I was saying.
So stores can make their own decision in the outlet, in the outlet mall, the premium outlets. Stores can make their own decision about whether they want to open or not. Well, again,
so I was thinking,
the
like,
Disney outlet stores in the premium outlets are Walt Disney World owned and operated stores. They're run by Walt Disney World cast members. So there again, it may be a staffing thing where they're putting the focus on the parks or Disney Springs first to get the cast members back there. Like, I don't know how it works. I don't know how difficult it is to bring people back from furlough. I assume there's a lot of people that are anxious to go back to work and make money again. But, you know, there may be a lot of people that have found other jobs since, although with the employment situation in Florida, I can't imagine that it's easy to find a job. But
or left Florida.
Or they left Florida, or they're so mad at Disney that they don't want to go back to work at Disney and they'd rather not. I don't know. So there's a lot of situations, and it may be the case that staffing is a limiting factor for a lot of these things. But I don't know. We'll see. What about the Disney store at the airport too? I mean, a lot of a lot of people, when they start coming, you know, when the airports start ramping back up, those are a big money maker too for people. I always go in the Disney store at the airport. You know, when I
but right now there's nobody
traveling at the airport, right? So it you know,
really
who knows when that's going to open.
But the outlets, I mean, if you know that your coworkers, somebody who does the same job as you is allowed to work at World of Disney, then I would be anxious to start back in a place that's open. I mean, it's different for the parks because you're inside the parks, but the outlets or the malls, like the Florida Mall,
situation as
is
World
open.
Of Disney. Yeah.
So it should be. So I don't know if we're going to see the outlets open again. We walked by them. They're well stocked, still with the same stuff. But I think they have a lot of stuff from Flower and Garden to come. So,
I mean, if
it's going to be very
I would not
well
be
stocked.
surprised. I would honestly not be surprised. And again, actually, I would be surprised because this is a smart thing. So Disney's not going to do it. Put all the Flower and Garden merchandise in World of Disney at Springs. People are dying to buy it. They'll go there. They'll buy it at full price. You don't have to send it to the outlets. Put it in World of Disney. That would be genius. They're not going to do it. I would bet money. I'll pay $20 if there's actually Flower and Garden merchandise from Epcot in World of Disney when it opens on the 27th.
I want to take this bet.
Just from an optics standpoint, I feel like that would be a bad move because when you walk in and you see the Flower and Garden stuff, it's just a reminder that didn't happen and that's not something you can go to anymore. I agree with you that would be great, and I'd be hurting to like get that AP Magic Band because I think it came out 3 days before they closed or something like that. So I would love an opportunity to do that, but I just think it's a reminder you put out there that says, hey, by the way, here's another thing that you can't do. And I think we want the opposite of that. We want normal. We want the things we can do. We've had enough of the things we can't do and the things that we've missed out on.
I mean, I see your point. You've got a valid point. I don't know that it matters too much because simply there are a fair amount, like they sell some things in Marketplace Co-op, I thought. Maybe they did for past festivals, I don't know. But certainly there's, like, you go into, like they sell Galaxy's Edge merchandise in Epcot. Like, they have all of this stupid merchandising that is totally a disaster, and it's not the way that they used to do it, where they had unique merchandise per park and per land in the park. Now it's all so agglomerated across the entire place that you can buy Galaxy's Edge merchandise in Animal Kingdom. So honestly, I don't think that they think that way anymore, that it matters where you sell merchandise. I just think that they probably have so much Flower and Garden merchandise, and it would be pretty easy to move it to Disney Springs and World of Disney, and people would buy it at full price. To me, that's an obvious thing, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, that's a money decision, right? Like, it's going to make them money, so why wouldn't they do it, as opposed to sending it to the outlets and selling it at a discount? Disney is way more likely to make a decision based on profit motive than they are to make a decision based on, well, this is going to upset people that can't go to Epcot. No, they're going to make the profit decision. So if somebody's smart enough to come up with this idea and get it to work, I'd still be surprised that somebody actually gets this to happen. But it would be a genius idea, and if I was in charge, I would absolutely do it.
Have them spend even more money. Spend $100 on Flower and Garden merchandise. Get an Orange Bird magnet for free. There you go. They have a few.
Actually,
don't even start with the Orange Bird magnet.
I also thought it made sense that if Epcot's going to be closed, they're going to have to be releasing all those pass holder magnets somewhere else, right? So where are they going to do it? I don't know. But I thought if they do it like all the way at the other end of the very west end of Disney Springs, they could have like the 6-foot social distancing queue, and the line would probably go all the way down to like Rainforest Cafe. But at least you could line up and wait in a line for 75 minutes to get your magnet.
They should just make people go through like the NBA experience, and then afterwards you get the magnet. It's like
yeah, there you go too. That would work.
They can keep.
Speaking of things that I wish they would
see.
They would do. I wish that they would have mailed them as a sign of good faith to the people who are AP, because if they had them made already for Flower and Garden, the Orangeburg magnet, I just wish they would have mailed them and said, hey, we're sorry you can't be here with us, but here's the magnet that would have been yours had you been here, and hang in there. That would have been a great move to do, but...
because they know they don't have magnets for every pass
out.
holder.
A couple years ago, they sent out pass holder magnets.
Was it the Simba one
Like
because of the hurricane or something?
No.
Was that?
No, Simba, you had to go in and like tap in, and then they would mail it to you.
I'm going to try to find mine.
But,
oh, okay.
Yeah, the orange one, the normal one.
yeah, they mail those to you anyway, the normal ones.
This one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's just because you became a
they
pass holder
mailed
that they mailed that to you.
They mailed these out, right? So
Yeah, but the same as the orange ones as well. So the regular pass holder ones, they send them out as well. But I do think they somehow calculate that not every pass holder will be there.
So
I don't think they have them.
And
for
all those
all
magnets
pass
are
holders.
while supplies last anyway. So they make X number, and that X may be half the number of pass holders or a quarter, or I don't know, whatever, but it's certainly less than the number of pass holders. But then again, with the parks being closed, they could just make some more and mail them. I do have to say, Mandy in the chat, who's one of our favorite WIGS members, works for the U.S. Postal Service, and she says magnets are hard to mail because they stick to the metal machinery, which makes total sense. But, people still mail magnets, so it would just cause a big jam up at the Postal Service.
Even the U.S. Postal Service used metal machinery, so Disney is the only one who doesn't, so that's clear. Okay.
Yes. All right. I think that's about it in the chat. Yeah. All right. Any last words before we put this thing to bed for tonight?
No,
Bring on the
see
springs.
you all on the 20th.
Wear your mask.
Absolutely. Wear your mask.
I'll be
I want to
visible
say
like
a
this,
huge
so-
shout out. A huge thanks to Kevin Lake, who's running all of our technology tonight. Makes my job tons easier. Thank you, Kevin. Huge shout out to Axel and Rob and Annie for coming on the show. It's fantastic to see 3 new faces on the show. And that was the idea of this show, was to get people on, have a rotating cast, and get people on who want to talk about the issues or have experience with the issues. Some people in the chat a while ago said, weren't we supposed to talk about DVC? And we made a typo and we typed in DVD, and Rob came on because of all the DVDs behind him. So sorry about that. We're going to try to get that fixed for next week. No, I'm just kidding. David and Marcy.
So we're not talking about DVC?
Not tonight.
They got me here talking about DVC. Like, I'm still waiting. Like, I don't know. I'm just talking about CityWalk. I'm still waiting for DVC.
Yeah, no. We and I know Rob's a DVC member too. I want to be able to get at least one of David and Marcy to be on, because talking about DVC was their idea to begin with, and they're the ones that are pissed about some of the things that DVC, the rules are, their restrictions they're putting in place. So I want to have one of them on, and they weren't available tonight. So the DVC discussion is going to come at some point. I don't know when. We're going to try every week until we can get David and Marcy on, and then we'll have Axel and Rob, if you guys can come on too. It's really just a scheduling thing at this point. But as soon as we can do it, we absolutely will. But anyway, thanks very much, everybody out there who's watching. I see the numbers that are watching now are been pretty constant the whole 2.5 hours, so thanks very much for sticking with us. I hope you guys didn't mind my rants all night. Sometimes I just get into a mood, and Shop Disney usually makes it a bad mood. But anyway.
Jason, did you see somebody sent a last-minute
I
super
see.
chat there?
So thank you very much, Amina, for the super chat. Also, I need to mention tomorrow at 11, Tom is ranking the Disney parks around the world. Discussion at 11 a.m. I might be there for that. I'm probably one of the only other people on staff that has been to all of them, because Annie hasn't.
California.
So yeah, I might be there for that if I can swing it. I do have a real job, unfortunately. But tune in for that at 11. And this is, well, we have another week and a half of these live shows every day, but when things start reopening, we're going to certainly taper back some of the live shows that we're doing twice a day. Don't worry, Pressing Issues is going to stick around. This is going to be a permanent thing. This actually wasn't one of the live shows that we created for the closure. This was this was a work in progress way before the parks actually closed. This was an idea before coronavirus was even a thing. But we just finally got around to it when the parks closed, and it was a good time to start it up. So Pressing Issues will absolutely stick around. Some of the other shows that you guys like will stick around. Some of them may be more special episodes, or they may be wigs-only things. We don't know yet. But certainly give us your feedback. You can email me at jason@wwnt.com. You can email Tom at wwnt.com. You can tweet at us or whatever. But absolutely, please give us your feedback on this show, on other shows. If there's other shows that you like and you want to see stick around, please let us know. Thank you all for watching tonight. Thank you all who are WIGS members for supporting us. We've got a lot of new WIGS members during this closure, and I think that's great. Thank you all for your support, for keeping us working and keeping us operating during this closure. Yes, WWNT can create magnets. We've made our own. Let me show one. We made our own. Here's one from Stage 89
sure, that one
that we made. The other one I don't have. I don't have.
Someone stole one of those off my car.
It's
yeah, these are popular.
And I have it on my fridge.
So we made these. Rob designed a really great one for Reflections of Forever that I don't have within an arm's reach right now. But and
fridge.
these, if you want one of these, if you didn't get one and you want one, or you saw the Stage 89 content that we posted on YouTube earlier this week. These are in the prize store. So WIGS members at the $23 and $33 level who get core bucks every month to spend on Disney merchandise can order these. Or you can play games on News Tonight or enter our contests like the Uncomfortable Disney Parks Photos contest that we run. You can absolutely... win core bucks and go spend them on the prize wall. I think these magnets may be $5 or $10. They're relatively cheap. They're not super expensive. So yeah, all that stuff. Go check out the prize wall at my.wwnt.com for everything that's on the prize wall. I got a bunch more stuff. Rob, what was that you held up? Some Yoda thing? Did you have that?
We're talking about Shop Disney. Shop Disney.
The
with the metal droid.
Yes.
The probe
That's
droid. And then
heavy.
I did get this, and a lot of people, because Jill has a wanted poster for the child in her shot, think that I stole this, but this is my child. This is my child. I don't know what happened to her.
Did you get the 40th anniversary Yoda? That was on Shop Disney at
no.
the same time as that probe droid. Well, May the 4th it came out.
No. I did get a child pop, and then also, not these, but like the Black Series figures. They did some for Empire. This was for Star Wars, but they did some for Empire, and I ordered these from Shop Disney too because I'm a sucker for like a retro action figure. So
Yeah, cool.
I've spent way too much on Shop Disney.
Of course.
At least you get to spend the money. I mean, they won't even take my money. Everything sells out.
I know, right? You click checkout 100 times and nothing happens.
Although after like 7 hours, I got a key.
The 40th anniversary Empire Yoda figure that's a plush that's like, I don't know, it's like 16 or 19 inches. It's a really big plush. I have one, and I'm going to put that up on the prize wall too. It was one of the things I managed to get during the May the 4th Shop Disney fiasco, and I got it for somebody on staff who really wanted it, and then he ended up getting one for himself, so it's kind of extra. So I'm going to put that on the prize wall for WIGS members and for people who have core bucks to spend. So anyway, yeah, this is a kind of real long tangent, but that's just plug in the WIGS group and our prize wall, and come watch News Tonight and play the games and win core bucks that you can then go spend and get cool stuff on our prize wall. I've also got a huge pile of the Big Al Wishables that came out and sold out within minutes last week. I'm going to put some of those on the prize wall and some other things. So, anyway, thanks again for watching. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to Kevin. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to WDWNT.com for news. On Wednesday, we'll have all the coverage of Disney Springs opening, as well as I think Mike Pence is coming to Florida to make some announcement about theme parks reopening or whatnot, so that'll be big news too. So stay tuned to WDWNT for all your parks news, and we will see you next Sunday night at 8 p.m. for another edition of Pressing Issues. Good night, everybody.
Night.